Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Thursday, April 16th, 2026 open session for the Carroll County Board of Commissioners. As we always do, we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silent reflection. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I hope everybody is doing well today, and as we typically do, we'll begin with Priority Carroll, and Commissioner Krebs, you are up first this week.
We'll just start the other way.
Oh, you want to start with Commissioner Kyler?
Sure.
You want to start?
I don't care.
Okay.
Whatever you do, as long as you don't adjourn while I'm trying to do it or something, you know.
I'll resist the urge.
Okay, good morning, all. Sine Die was Monday. I spent most of the day in Annapolis. The senators and delegates, I don't think they got a break until like 3:30, and then they were back until midnight, so didn't get to talk to a lot of them. Did talk to Cornerstone, Providence, Catholic Charities, and spent a fair amount of time with MACO. And again, I think, obviously, I don't agree with a lot of things they did Saturday and Monday, but that's how government seems to work. I think sometimes Annapolis is worse than DC, but there's a big concern that after the election next year will be worse. So it'll be interesting. I hope not, but I think we need to prepare. I left Annapolis and went to Finksburg. The Veterans Book Club met at Finksburg Library. They celebrated their 10th year of that Veterans Book Club being in existence and meeting. They even met during COVID outside, regardless of the weather. So they've been 10 years. Heather Owings, librarian, they honored her because she's been all 10 years and supporting them. It's interesting. Let's say there's 25 of them. They meet monthly, they read a book, they discuss the book, and I wondered, I'm naive, I wondered how they get the books. Do they keep the books? Do they have a stack of books? Whatever. They actually borrow the books from libraries throughout the state to get enough, read them, return them, and borrow new books for the next month. So I just think that's awesome. Like I say, I'm probably naive. Probably the librarian people knew that, but again, thank you, Heather Owings. Thank you, library, Carroll County Public Library, all of them, not just Finksburg, and congratulations to the Veterans Book Club. I know a lot of book clubs, but at 10 years consistent, that's pretty good. We've been working on budget enclosed. On Tuesday, Ted will be part of our meeting and release the proposed budget, and then we have a month, maybe, to meet in open to discuss it. Ted will do his road shows at libraries and put out info about it, and then we'll do a public hearing at the Carroll Arts Center, and then hopefully we will approve a final budget. By law, we have to, but so hopefully we will. Carroll County 4-H, they did their achievement program at the Ag Center the other night, and I don't know if everybody knows it. I don't know if everybody up here knows it. They gave away, I don't know, 100 awards probably, but one of them is the Carroll County Commissioners Award, and the 4-H, the male 4-H guy of the year won that award, and so that was kind of nice. But again, it's anything with 4-H or FFA or the Ag Center, it's such great families, great volunteers. They gave I think Andy Cashman, they gave awards to volunteers, 20 years, 25 and up. I think he was 45 years and he got an award. So great people out there, great families, great volunteers, great kids. And the 4-H obviously knows this, but they do so much more than animals. They do speaking, they do judging. Two of the award winners at least were at a national convention in DC and couldn't be there that night. They are very, very active and learn a myriad of skills. Been meeting some taxpayers, and I want to mention that for a reason. If you have an issue and you email, text, call, all of my emails and numbers are public. I get criticized for that, but I even answer scam calls just in case it's somebody real. And Rhonda yells at me. Sometimes I'm not real polite with the scam people, but I answer it just in case. So if you want to meet, you have an issue right now. There's still a lot of things going on the transmission line. And there's solar popping up every place. And staff, me, I'm trying to invite some delegation people because the state has really tied our hands on what we're allowed to do. I understand, for instance, the last one is right between us at Albert Row and Route 27. And I don't think we can stop it, and I don't think we can make them do anything more than the state allows, and I think that's sad. I like local control. We deserve local control, but we will still meet. We'll meet with groups, and if you have a complaint, contact any of us. We all answer, and we'll meet. Yesterday, I went to drug court. They had eight graduates. That's always awesome to see them and their families. And past graduates will be there. And that is, I think, minimum 13-month process. Sometimes it's 36 months, but they do a lot of work to graduate from drug court. And they have a pretty good success rate. Anybody involved with addictions knows that there's no guarantee ever, but it's just a great program, and Judge Hecker did a great job as always. Met with the Carroll County Community College trustees last night. Great meeting with them, and it always is. They're a great group, and Carroll Community College, and we talked about it a little bit last night. If you don't know what all they do, check into it. They do GED classes, they do CDL classes, they do welding, they do auto mechanics. And most of the community colleges around the state and the country are doing a lot more than reading, writing, and arithmetic. They're doing trade skills. And I think one of the things that our community college is working to adapt to, and others have, and if not, they need to. When the community college started, and I forget, in the 80s, we graded the site, I can't remember, but its purpose was to supplement high school, maybe get a 2-year degree, and transfer to a 4-year college. That was pretty much the purpose. Well, that's not anymore. The purpose is a lot of people get an AA degree, and that gets them what they want for life. A lot of people get a CDL. I saw a guy last year, he got his GED and his CDL at the same time and was working for a local contractor. So it's a lot of things that happen out there, and I think they're adjusting as well as anybody to the needs of the students, and so it's always neat there. As you know, we're going through some zoning talks, and actually have some deferrals going on. I've talked with staff and the consultant. I think there's a meeting coming up with them, and they're working hard to get through that and have some good answers and probably good questions for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Commissioner Gordon?
Good morning, Carroll County. I want to start off by giving a big compliment to a wide array of our educators. We have a lot of nationally board certified educators in our community, and I know that's quite the process, so I wanted to first point that out. I know there's a lot of them that are currently working through that national board certification process in the spring. Truly inspiring to see all our teachers building upon what they've already done in achieving this prestigious milestone. Nationally certified educators continue to lead by example, mentoring their colleagues, elevating the profession, and making a lasting impact on students each and every day. Also want to give a personal shout out to the 15 nationally board certified educators at my alma mater at Westminster High School. Congratulations to them, but again, congratulations to all our educators that are nationally board certified and those currently working through that. Secondly, just wanted to briefly join my colleagues and the Carroll County Health Department in welcoming Dr. Matthew Levy as the Maryland Department of Health's newly appointed health officer for Carroll County. He brings a wealth of experience to this role. I've had a number of interactions with him, and I couldn't be more pleased to see that he is now going to be leading our local health department, and his first official day was yesterday. Also wanted to mention very briefly, I attended, as did Commissioner Krebs, and as Commissioner Kyler mentioned, the Carroll County Drug Treatment Court graduation. As always, Judge Hecker does a fantastic job running that event, but have to thank all our judges that are involved in that. It's all our judges that are involved in that process and assisting with those that go through that class. This is actually class 43, which I think says a lot about our local thought process and looking to help those in our community. It was very nice also, as Commissioner Kyler was mentioning, the community college. Community college spoke at the event, and there are opportunities that they mentioned for those 8 graduates to further themselves both job and education-wise through the community college. So I think it's absolutely fabulous that they have that opportunity coming right out of this. And I think it says a lot, not only to the judges and everyone from the legal side, but the community as a whole that turns out to share in their accomplishments, but also support these individuals as they move forward. Go ahead.
And I missed Kelly's speech because I was tied up and a little late, so she gave me a written copy, so I wasn't denied.
But, you know, it's a tough road, and we all have people, family, friends, neighbors that are affected by this. There's not one of us in this community that's not affected by addiction in some fashion. So again, I just think it's a wonderful thing that we do in Carroll County, which is support each other. And last but certainly not least, on a personal note, I've got to wish 2 ladies a happy birthday today. One, my mother, and then the other, as some of you up here know quite well, and I think some in the audience might know, my little now 4-year-old companion and buddy, Zaria. So happy birthday to both of them, and that's all for me.
And if you forgot your mother, I was going to mention it, but I was going to give you first.
I'm glad you did.
Well, happy birthday to both of them.
Yep.
Glad Commissioner Gordon did not forget.
No.
Commissioner Karen, all yours.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, Carroll County. Yeah, Commissioner Gordon, that may be the smartest thing you'll do all day. You do not miss Mom's birthday.
Well, I can tell you this much. We all went out to dinner last night, and we all FaceTimed this morning and had happy birthday conversations.
Well done, Commissioner
yes.
Gordon. Yeah, good morning, Carroll County. I'm glad Commissioner Gordon mentioned Dr. Levy. I think probably several of us were planning on doing that. I want to welcome him. Yes, we have had the opportunity to work with Dr. Levy as he filled that interim role as a Carroll County Health Officer, and we, since the Carroll County Board of Commissioners acts as the Board of Health, a job that we take seriously and are taking more seriously as we move along. I couldn't be happier with Dr. Levy's appointment to that position. Interestingly enough, I've had a number of Carroll County residents reach out to me and just sort of ask me point blank, you know, what's the story with Dr. Levy? Should we be excited about that? Is that the right choice? And the unequivocal answer is yes. Yes, we're very happy to have him, and we're lucky to have him. And we've got a good relationship going, and I want to welcome him to Carroll County. And then lastly, on Saturday was the Spring Junior Firefighters event at Mount Airy Volunteer Fire Company. The CC Visa will run a junior firefighters event twice a year. In the fall, it's at our Public Safety Training Center here in Westminster, and then it rotates around to different regional fire companies in the spring. They held an event. I was there for most of the day, and it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. There were over 100 junior firefighters there from all around the county, different stations where people were getting training on things. It was encouraging. It was enlightening. You couldn't have picked a better venue. Obviously, I'm a little biased, but it's the best view in the whole county from Mount Airy Volunteer Fire Company. So, again, I want to credit CC Visa and JJ and Christy and that entire crew for putting together what just amounted to just an amazing event. And it was capped off by a visit from the Park Police Eagle. I think it's called Eagle One. It's one of their main helicopters. It landed at the field next to the Mount Airy Volunteer Fire Company to kind of cap the whole day off. And it was an inspiring event. And you looked at every single one of those young people that were there are Carroll County kids. They're Carroll County residents, and they were there just learning how to bust down doors and extract people from vehicles and run water and do EMS, and it was just amazing. And one of the funnier moments was when the helicopter landed, one of the first questions of the pilot was, is there Wi-Fi in this thing? So, you know, kids will be kids. So my congratulations to CC Visa. My thanks to the Mount Airy Volunteer Fire Company. What an amazing event, and they should be so proud of what they put on because of what it means for Carroll County. The term, you know, volunteerism and community, in my opinion, it's just an overused word in today's society. But when you're talking about our volunteer fire companies, you really are truly talking about people that are working in communities, for communities, and people that are volunteers. They are not paid. When they run into that burning building, they're doing it, you know, quote unquote, because they're doing it for free, but that's doesn't do it justice. They're doing it because it's something they truly, truly believe in. So my credit to CC Visa and everybody who put on just an amazing event. And that's all for me.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Very well said. Commissioner Krebs?
And I made a smart decision to go last because I figured you all would talk about half the things I wanted to talk about, so I could skip them all. I'm not going to go over all these comments again, but we've had a very exciting week, and you all covered it very well. And thank you. It was all wonderful that we participated in. But some of the extra things that I did in addition to those is last week was opening day for Sykesville baseball, and I guess spring sports all over the place. So I went down. I haven't been back to the baseball fields for many years since my kids are grown. They have a beautiful facility that they're able to use. Thank goodness to Fairhaven, who has allowed them to use some fields. They give them a lease on those. They take care of them 100%. None of it has ever been provided by the county. And the volunteer base and what they've done down there is phenomenal. So I'm going to save something else for next week, but I did throw the baseball. I haven't thrown a ball. I used to play softball. I haven't thrown a ball in like 20 years. And I didn't practice, and I actually got a strike, and it's on video. So I was just afraid it was going to go over the net. I'm like, I haven't thrown a ball, but luckily it went into the guy's glove. So I was proud of that. It's nice to get out. It was a beautiful day. And then after that, my husband and I went to the Christian Farmers Outreach breakfast or brunch. We've been going for many, 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 many years, and Rick Bernstein was our speaker. He has spoken about a decade ago, and they run First Fruits Farm up in northern Baltimore County, and that provides a huge amount of food for the Helping Up mission and a lot of missions all over the state. And I forget how many volunteers he said. How they started in their family backyard, and they literally have thousands and thousands of groups that come and help them pick and plant and do everything up at First Fruits. And he actually retired early to do this when he was 61 years old, and immediately to expand, and immediately afterwards had some major health issues, like life-threatening health issues. But he got through that, and this operation that they have is phenomenal. And his wife, Carol, used to run the Westminster Rescue Mission in Westminster, and that's how I met her at first. And she finally retired and is doing full-time up there as well. So they're just people that give back unlimited amount in our community with no accolades, but Christian Farmers Outreach has been going on for a very long time. And Wilson Lippy used to be there in charge of it until he passed, and now it's continuing on. And one of your constituents is now running it. I'll give you a message from him if you remind me later. So that was last Saturday, and then it was mentioned that session has ended finally, And we always say, thank God it's ending, because the damage that gets done sometimes is not. I'll get back to that in a second. I also went to Fairhaven on, that was yesterday. Gosh, it seems like a long time. Went to Fairhaven yesterday for their open house for their new healthcare center. And Fairhaven has been purchased, it used to be owned by Episcopal Ministries. Now it's owned by ACTS, and ACTS is a continuing care retirement community. They have 34, I think 34 of them up and down the East Coast. Their headquarters. What's the name? ACTS, A-C-T-S. ACTS, that's the parent company now instead of Episcopal Ministries. They bought them a few years ago, and they've made tremendous improvements. I didn't recognize it when I went in. I hadn't been in since before COVID. I went a few months ago, but the improvements that they've done, and now they've got a larger organization that's actually putting a lot of capital into it, and it's always been a phenomenal place to visit and go and be a resident of. But this has been a positive, I think, positive acquisition, because they have the capital to infuse in doing some things there. So they have their open house for the healthcare part of it. It is a continuing, CCRC, a continuing care retirement community, and it's a place you can go from independent living to cottages, from cottages to little townhouses, they call them something else, and then independent living, assisted living, all the way through to nursing care. And they also had sold off Copper Ridge a couple of years ago, which I did not realize, which was their facility for dementia. So that is still there, right around there, but that they don't control that anymore. So that was very interesting. And then last night, Commissioner Gurn and I, he mentioned we had our ESAC meeting. I went as a visitor. Commissioner Gurn is the commissioner assigned to that, and they are a well-run organization. And I've been very impressed with them every time we've met. But just seeing the meeting, all the combination between the volunteers and the career folks and how they mesh together, and then everyone else is talking about what's coming up and planning for the future and putting it in writing and having things so everybody understands what's going on. It was very, very well run. And they brought up a couple of issues that I had not heard about, and we didn't hear about them in Annapolis that occurred, that brings me some concern, big concern. And we talk about Annapolis overreaching local control. And it doesn't matter if you're for it or against what they're doing. When you usurp your local control, you're taking it away from your towns, your local counties, and we're all different. Somerset and Montgomery County are not the same, and they should not be treated the same. So one of the policies that we missed out on that they passed was, I don't have the House bill with me, but was basically mandating, dictating schedules for firefighters statewide. Mandating how many hours they work a week. Now, every county is different. Like, some have schedules, they're all different schedules, and they work different for different counties. They're different sizes. Some are volunteers, some are career, some are mixed. And the fact, I won't tell you what we believe, why it happened, I have to dig more into this, but the fact that the state of Maryland is dictating to all local governments what a schedule for firefighters must be in your county is not right. And they've done it with zoning. Whether you agree with what they're doing or not, it's still dictating it. Have your battle back home, communicate. It's not one size fits all. They did it for Blueprint, which is the education policy that's very controversial, telling us you got to pay people a certain amount here, here, and here. One size does not fit all. Somerset County is different from Montgomery County, and you should not be telling them that $60,000, and that's just one issue, but I'm saying when all these things, whether it's hours worked or this or that and the other, they're not health and safety issues. These are controlling counties, and local government, whether you like it or not, is where it's at. That's why you're all here. You wouldn't go to Annapolis and most people and be able to weigh in on this stuff. That's what you do here locally in your own county, for better or worse. There's more accountability, and I don't know who's coming up with this stuff, but it's not good for the counties, and we did not catch that one. We should have weighed on that. So keep that in mind on these policies, and I think on that particular one for the firefighter schedule, it was noted that we're closest to meeting it, how we've decided in our county to operate, and that's good. Still not right for all the other counties who have decided on their own, for whatever works for them, what they're going to do. So that's it for me.
Well, thank you very much, Commissioner Krebs. Just a couple of quick things from myself this morning. First of all, I want to compliment all my colleagues for their comments, as always. So first of all, over the weekend, I had the pleasure of joining the awesome members of the Taneytown History Museum for their seasonal grand reopening, with new exhibits reflecting 250 years of history and more for Taneytown, because Taneytown was founded in 1754. And I was joined there along with Taneytown Mayor Christopher Miller, Mayor Pro Tem Rachel Miller, Councilman Jim McCarran, Councilman Harry Mead, and Councilman Alex Kelly, as well as friends from the Historical Society of Carroll County. As always, the exhibits are incredibly well done and very much worth a visit. And on that note, as Commissioner Gordon always does, I want to encourage everybody to continue to look for America 250 and Maryland 250 events across the county. From local businesses like Sunday at Savannah's in New Windsor to historical groups like the Carroll County Historical Society, local museums, historic sites like Union Mills, the County Farm Museum, and the Robert Moton Museum in Westminster, to organizations like the Carroll County Public Library. I've been to a number of these events and exhibits, and they really do give you a wonderful and inspiring sense of the American dream lived locally and how the places that we call home have contributed to our shared American story. And last but not least, and I want to thank Jenny Teeter and Stop MPRP and one of our county neighbor citizens for sharing this critical information regarding PSEG and the MPRP power lines. I want to encourage everybody to consult the interactive map that PSEG hosts and updates online, specifically regarding the pathway for the power lines, as recently PSEG has mapped out in orange their intentions for access roads to the proposed line. As word has come to us, the mapping of access routes includes shared and common drives and private drives for which PSEG has, of course, failed to notify the owners. That includes drives on private property not directly affected by the actual pathway of the power line itself. So even if you're an adjacent property owner, and you may still be subjected to PSEG's cavalier assumptions of your property for their own personal uses. So please do consult the map, and if you have a driveway or a private driveway, common driveway that is being affected, please do contact Stop MPRP or contact the commissioners to let us know about that, because that will be incredibly consequential for our defense of the county against the power lines. And last but not least, if you are here for the public hearing that we're going to be getting to in a little while, there should be salmon-colored cards at the back of the room, and we ask you to please fill those out and drop those off with Roberta up here at the front of the room. Now we will move into the next section of Priority Carol. Commissioner Gordon, I believe you have a proclamation.
I do. Would ask that anyone from the Realtors Group or anyone else that would like to speak, please come forward. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning, everybody.
Well, I'm Sharon Heiner. I'm the Executive Vice President for the Carroll County Realtors. And with me this morning, we have, I'm going to save you time. We have our current president, Yvette Ripion, and our president-elect, Sandy Jenkins Blackburn, and our secretary, Dawn Friend. And we also have several of our board of directors sitting back here, but our special guest we have with us is a former president of ours, and she's currently the president of the Maryland Realtors, and it's Denise Lewis. So thank you for joining us.
Morning.
Good morning. So I'm going to turn it over to Yvette.
Okay, good morning. Thank you so much for having us today. We are here because April is nationally recognized as Fair Housing Month, commencing the passage of the Fair Housing Act on April 11th, 1968. It is the perfect opportunity for realtors to reaffirm their commitment to fair and equitable treatment of all. This not only builds inclusive community and strong local economies, it builds thriving communities. The National Association of Realtors, in partnership with Maryland Realtors and Carroll County Realtors, advance fair housing through advocacy, education, and a belief that everyone deserves the opportunity for home ownership. All Maryland real estate licensees are required to complete continuing education on fair housing each and every license renewal period. Our Carroll County Association, in partnership with Maryland Realtors, offers this course as well as several elective classes on this subject to our local members at no charge. Additionally, our association partners with local schools in an effort to raise awareness about housing discrimination by sponsoring an annual fair housing essay contest. A high school senior or college student is awarded a $1,000 scholarship. This year, the topic is, we felt is very relevant, as artificial intelligence and online platforms become more prevalent in society, how could they potentially affect housing equality? This year, we have 7 entries with a submission deadline of tomorrow, and we're looking forward to selecting this year's recipient. Fair housing isn't just the law, it is the ethical duty of all realtors, and we are committed to raising awareness in our local community. So thank you for having us today in celebration of Fair Housing Month.
Well, thank you all for coming in. So I have a proclamation here. It is April is Fair Housing Month, whereas the Fair Housing Act enacted on April 11th, 1968 enshrined into federal law the goal of eliminating racial segregation and ending housing discrimination in the United States. And the Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination in housing based on race, color, religion, sex, familial status, national origin, and disability, and commits recipients of federal funding to affirmatively further fair housing in their communities. And Carroll County is committed to the mission and intent of Congress to provide fair and equal housing opportunities for all. And our social fabric, the economy, health, and environment are strengthened in diverse, inclusive communities. And more than 50 years after the passage of the Fair Housing Act, discrimination persists and many communities remain segregated. And the act of housing discrimination and barriers to equal housing opportunities are repugnant to a common sense of decency and fairness. Now therefore, we, the Board of Carroll County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2026 as Fair Housing Month, signed and adopted the 16th day of April 2026 by the Board of Carroll County Commissioners.
Well, thank you all very much for coming in. Thank you for what you do for the county. If everybody, any other comments from my colleagues up here?
Thank you, guys, and thank you for the emails trying to educate some of us.
I appreciate all the hard work. Obviously, housing is such an importantly critical thing for everyone in the community. I'd be really curious to hear about what the AI answers are to that. That's a fascinating topic given in the world we currently live in. But truly just appreciate everything you all do. I know, you know, as all fields have their challenges, but as we know, both locally, state, and nationally, housing has become such a challenge of late. So I just want to thank you all.
And you guys do some rental, I think, as well, and there's been a lot of rental bills that have passed in the last few years, and I've always been interested. I think some folks in Annapolis think of rental buildings as big high-rises. We don't have those here. We have local people that buy them, their retirement, or that's their investments. And some of the stuff, I know this year they did an eviction bill, and I'd just be interested to know, I mean, throughout the year, how that affects. I mean, I do have our landlord association, they used to, you know, weigh in on it with us, but some of the restrictions on these small mom and pop, I call them mom and pop, there are lots of houses around, and somebody's renting them out, how that affects us here, because if you can't evict somebody for whatever reason, and it should not be discriminatory, forget that, that's off the table. It's a challenge, and I know during COVID, there was money that was given out to pay for people's rents, and people were not paying their rent, so that landlord still has their mortgage to pay or whatever. But I think it'd be nice if you guys come to those situations, just jot them down, share them with us and the delegation, because having those anecdotal stories about, it's not just with their picture of these, you know, big conglomerates owning buildings. No, in Carroll County, that's not what it is. And I know a number of people that have been affected in getting out of the business, and then we don't have the rentals. So, you know, having the story, especially in Annapolis, those stories about what is actually on the ground happening in different places because of what they're doing is good. And it comes from you because you guys know. We can be anecdotal, but that is more of a specific, a couple stories sometimes explains, hey, this is what it means to our folks.
You have 3 people sitting here that are on the state legislative committee for Maryland Realtors.
And I know you guys weigh in, but share that stuff with the delegation. I know we always get your printouts, and believe me, we read right from those because they're good, but those stories it's paid attention to.
And we have been very active, thank you for that, Maryland Realtors as well as locally, keeping our landlords informed of because there was a lot of really bad legislation that was trying to be pushed through this year. And we did weigh in heavily on it. We also reach out directly to landlords that we work with and ask them, and they are showing up with their stories and their concerns. So I would agree wholeheartedly, that is extremely important.
And in your papers that you used to send out, I mean, I read every one, and we used to actually attach it to the bill. I mean, put it in the computer on that bill, so when we're, you know, how we get 2,500 bills, it's right in front of me, that testimony, and many times that testimony, it didn't come through my committee, I would read right from that testimony, or have that information right at my fingertips. So I don't know if anybody tells you often, but is looked at and is used.
Good to know. That's
Thank
good
you,
to know.
Sharon.
I actually brought just one copy of the State of Maryland Housing, and I'll leave that with you guys. Has some great statistics on it.
Thank you very much for
Yeah,
that.
thank you for coming in.
I have a question before we do a photo, and that's what made me think of it, because I'm not sure there'll be room for us down there with all of you here today. Do you have any idea how many realtors are in Carroll County?
We
Do you have a guess?
We're just under 500.
500?
About 480, something like
Yeah.
that.
With 9 houses to sell, so do the
Yeah, the inventory's low.
You know, one thing I should have mentioned as well, I know there was a lot of stuff during session about affordability. After working with Habitat for Humanity and the ARC on what they're trying to do here with free land, a lot of free labor, a lot of free supplies, you still can't build an affordable house. And I won't get into the details here, but during session, I've been down there talking about how do we, a lot of these state mandates, and you go through every one of them, adds a lot of cost to a home. And it just starts off up here, you know, stormwater and over again, but they all add up, and you can't even build with all this free stuff. You cannot build a new affordable home without it being subsidized in Maryland. And we've got to figure out that before you say, and we get little townhouses some for $750,000 that are basic, entry level, and that's the market, but there's some affordability things that we could change in Maryland that are driving up the costs that they don't have as much of. You have to have a little bit, but sometimes we go, I say we, the state goes overboard with, and the departments don't talk to each other. So between that, utility costs and water costs, I mean, whoever thought about water being, you know, $400 or $500 a quarter? You never, a lot of that has to do with some of the mandates that were, so we got to look at the root cause of why utilities are up, whether it's the power line, whether it's electricity, because all that stuff goes into what you can afford for a house. So we got to get, again, to the root cause and put some numbers on it and say, hey, why is it different here than over here? I know in Virginia, I was there this week with my daughter, and I asked her what her utility bill was. It was a fraction of what ours is, and she has a big house. And I'm like, why? I didn't look at the numbers, you know, where the distribution, but it was a considerable difference, and it's an hour away. And that's utility. So we've got to look at that. We can't just say, oh, we got to do these things. There is a cost involved.
We can all attest to the migration out of the state.
Oh, I can attest to it, too.
So it's a sad situation, you're right.
And we've done this before, and we invite you, so consider this your formal invitation to sit with us and brainstorm. Absolutely.
Well, we're going to try to get some information when we have some time this year, and I've offered Indianapolis to be a part of this, to bring some data to them, and from the people building the houses, and maybe from you guys, but the people, they're following the rules, but this is what it costs to do X. Somebody told me $50,000 a house for stormwater, possibly. We got to quantify that. It could be. And we got reforestation now, that's a big issue, it's $32,000 an acre. We don't have, all those things add up to the base, and we got to find some solutions.
Commissioner
Yeah,
Garrett?
again, thank you for coming in. We obviously share a lot of common interests. I mean, for our part, we're usually hoping legislation doesn't pass. You might be doing the same thing, but you're also helping educate us on what the impacts might be. So I would encourage you to continue to do that. I think I share the sentiment of this entire board. We are deeply concerned about some of the legislation that's still brewing in Annapolis. It's not gone. It probably won't go away, but it severely affects residential housing. It affects the ability for realtors to be realtors in some ways as well. So, yes, I will echo the request and sentiment that, yeah, continue to reach out to us and let us know how these things impact you as well, because when they impact you, they obviously impact the people you're trying to get housing for in our fantastic county, which clearly a lot of people want to move to. I mean, that's the good part of it, right? There's always a silver lining, but yeah, inventory is low. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Are we ready for a picture? We should probably stay up here if you have a crowd with you.
That's usually how we travel.
We're also celebrating our 70th anniversary of our organization, so I'll bring
Congratulations.
some things for you.
And if I know one thing about realtors, you're not shy, so come on up. How you doing?
You do have a crowd.
All women with one man.
Good crowd.
Get in the middle of your
Thank you.
Kyler, good.
Yes, sir.
He's in charge, he's got the camera.
All right, and everybody smile, say cheese. Well, now, yeah. You guys got two
I keep
close.
moving, I'm okay.
Commissioner Kyler there. I mean, you know, he might break the camera.
Thank you.
All right, wait right there. All right, one more. All right, good.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all so much.
Absolutely. Yes.
Oh, you are? Okay, good.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Sharon. And make sure to get you some dates, too. Thank you very much.
And the theme 250.
So without,
And the theme of the 250 is
Thank you, I'll take it. Scan this and send it to everybody, they only gave me one.
so without any objection from the board, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reverse the order of the next two items because I know we have a number of people here for the public hearing regarding the billboards, and I don't want to hold them up because I know that our legislative update is going to take a little bit longer than normal because it is our last one with the legislative season wrapping up for the year. So what I'm going to do at this moment in time, without objection from the board, I'm going to call to order the public hearing on Chapter 158 zoning billboard amendments. I am going to turn things over to our county attorney, Tim Burke, for a brief introduction. Tim?
Good morning, Commissioners. As you stated, this is a public hearing to discuss some proposed amendments to our zoning code concerning billboards and their location and possible consolidation. This ordinance was advertised in the Carroll County Times on Thursday, April 2nd, 2026, as well as Thursday, April 9th, 2026. In addition, it was posted on the county's website, and we have used our various publicity methods in this one. So we do have some people, I think, that wanted to talk about it. With us today are Chris Hine, our Director of Resource Management and Planning, and our Head of the Division / Bureau of Planning, Daphne Daly. They are here to talk about any questions you may have and maybe give you a little brief rundown of what's being proposed.
Good morning.
Morning.
Sure if the presentation is loaded up here.
This is a different setup than normal.
How do I get to it?
Hit escape.
Okay.
Oh. See it underneath, get that on top, you just hit F5.
Thank you.
Hit F5 and it should come up.
Thank you, Greg.
Okay.
And you thought he just took pictures.
Well, good morning again. I am going to run through a brief presentation to sort of provide the context for what we're talking about here and to hopefully inform some of the comments that might be made. This is generally the same presentation that I offered back in February, so there are a few of the slides that I'm going to skip over in the interest of time. But I'll give you an overview of the proposal, a little bit of the background on it, a few examples, and then I do want to run through the specific text amendments. That's something that we weren't able to go into in depth the last time I was here, so I want to make sure we cover those. Okay, so briefly, the proposal that's in front of you was first raised in August of last year. It was a citizen request asking the board to explore billboard consolidation with no net increase in sign area. You referred this to the Planning and Zoning Commission for their review and recommendation. They discussed that proposal in October and December of last year, as well as January of this year. Their recommendations were presented to you on February 5th, and we had a public information session on the matter on March 5th. The high-level intent here is to reduce the number of billboards while allowing billboard owners to modernize signage to allow with industry standards. It would allow for the consolidation and removal of multiple non-conforming signs to install a larger and possibly digital sign at the same location. To set the context a little bit here, since 2003, the county has had some significant regulations in place to limit use off-the-premise signs to 10 feet in height and 32 square feet in total area. But we do have many older billboards that exceed these limitations. So they existed prior to 2003 and have been allowed to continue existing as non-conforming uses. One thing that I do want to note is that since 2013, well, in 2013, we amended the ordinance to allow for the digitization of certain billboards. So billboards in commercial and industrial zoning districts were able to be converted to electronic message signs, subject to certain requirements. Again, that was in 2013 that occurred. The county keeps a registry of use off the premise signs, and we currently have 121 registered non-conforming use off the premise signs. They average about 28.5 feet in height and 308 square feet in size. And the image that you see here, the billboard on the right-hand side, is generally that average billboard size, and this one happens to be digitized as well. So you see on this map here the location of eligible properties with 2 or more use off the premise signs. I do want to note that this is not all of the signs in the county. These are the locations only of properties that have more than one sign, therefore could be consolidated as part of this proposal. To summarize, the Planning Commission recommended text amendments. They did recommend that the amendment be enacted to allow for multiple existing non-conforming billboards on the same or adjacent parcels owned by the same property owner to be consolidated into one new sign. The maximum square footage would be 672 square feet per side, which is equivalent to a 14 by 48 foot sign, or the total area of consolidated signs. So if you were consolidating 2 signs of 200 square feet, say, the maximum consolidated area of the new sign could be 400 square feet. The maximum height would be 50 feet from the grade of the roadway, and whatever new consolidated sign were constructed would need to be located within 25 feet of one of those existing signs to be consolidated. That's the proposal in general, and I'll get into the specifics of the code language in just a few minutes. Just wanted to point out how this proposal is addressed potentially in some of our adopted plans. Both the Carroll County Master Plan and the Freedom Community Plan are silent on the issue of billboards. However, the 2013 Finksburg Corridor Plan does reference billboards throughout, both the current conditions and the analysis of community needs. And then in the recommendations section, you see some of the language that's provided there, specifically recognizing the impact of billboards on sort of the gateway character in Finksburg, and the fact that the prevalence of billboards diminishes the scenic qualities of the community and the concern for addressing the appearance of the community and particularly the impact that billboards have on that. To give you a sense of what we're talking about here in terms of our existing conditions, I mentioned the, I believe it was 121 registered non-conforming use off premises signs. Our average sign height you see there is around 28 feet. You can see the distribution of other sign heights throughout the county. And on the right-hand side, that pie chart depicts the square footage of signs that we have, again, with the average being in that 300 to 400 square foot range. So this example is just comparing on the right-hand side our sort of average billboard size versus on the left-hand side what the proposed square footage is. And then this one is comparing the sign height. So you see on the right-hand side is an example of the consolidation of the three signs in the middle. They add up to 547 square feet total. So with the 50-foot height limit that's proposed, that's what that could look like. The green sign on the far left is a depiction of what our regulations currently allow in terms of height and square footage. Okay, I'm going to skip through the slides that give some examples here in the interest of time. I want to go to the proposed text amendments themselves. So we have 3 sections of code that are being recommended for revision. The main one that I'm going to focus on is within, all of these are within our zoning code, which is Chapter 158. So Chapter 158, 115 addresses use off the premises signs, and that's where the bulk of these changes would occur. We have 2 smaller changes that are also part of this amendment package to our general regulations, and then administrative adjustments in use off the premises signs. I'm going to focus mostly on that first section there. 158, 115C is just setting up the language to say that section related to use off the premises signs has certain requirements unless otherwise approved through the process set forth in 158, 115F, which is all about the consolidation. So we're just adding that language to direct people to that section if consolidation applies. And this is that section. So we created a new section that relates to consolidation or consolidation and relocation of existing non-conforming outdoor advertising signs pertaining to uses off the premises. The key provisions here are that it only applies to signs located on one parcel or on 2 or more adjacent parcels in the commercial and industrial zoning districts. So C1, C2, C3, I1, and I2. So signs on those types of parcels may be consolidated or consolidated and relocated into either a new printed outdoor advertising sign or a new electronic message sign. Signs in all other districts can be consolidated, but only into a new printed outdoor advertising sign. And that's because we only allow the digitization in our commercial and industrial zoning districts. Okay, the relocation has to take place on the parcel where one of the signs subject to the application is located, or on an adjacent parcel owned by the same landowner and located in the C1, C2, C3, I1, or I2 zoning districts. The consolidation cannot result in an increase in the total square footage. The maximum square footage is limited to the total square footage of signs being consolidated, or 672 square feet per panel, whichever one is greater. Whichever one is lesser. There are a few provisions that also relate here to location of that relocated sign. So it cannot be closer to the frontage of the property than one of the signs being removed. The height limitation is recommended at 50 feet. It can't be relocated any more than within 25 feet of one of the existing signs. So when you consolidate the signs, they may need to, they may not be able to put it in the exact same location as one of the existing signs. So if they have to move it off one of those signs a little bit, it can't be more than 25 feet. And it cannot obstruct traffic visibility as determined by the zoning administrator. And also has to comply with all applicable and state and local, site distance standards. This section addresses the application process and the things that would need to be included in that application. That application would be submitted to the zoning administrator. These sections address I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong page here. Okay, so this section notes that the new signs have to comply with all operational and procedural requirements set forth in other sections of this part of our code. It also states that no new additional use off the premises signs may be allowed where signs are consolidated. In other words, all signs owned by the same person or entity on the property subject to the application for consolidation shall be subject to the application for consolidation. So let me give you a quick example here. If you have a property owner that has 6 billboards on their property, 3 of which are owned by one company, the other 3 of which are owned by another company, then the 3 that are owned by company A have to all be part of that consolidation application. They can't do only 2 of them and then leave one of the 3 still there. So that's what that section is addressing. Need to be receiving all necessary permits, both from the county and the state, if it's located on along a state highway. And then this last section here talks about the removal of the signs being consolidated. So within 30 days of the issuance of a use and occupancy permit, the previously existing signs have to be removed, and the applicant needs to provide an affidavit confirming that the removal has been completed. And that last sentence there talks about the fact that it permanently extinguishes non-conforming sign rights, including any right to replace, reconstruct, or relocate such signs. That's just kind of an extra sentence in there to confirm that there is no option for somebody who has consolidated a non-conforming sign to come back and say, oh, but we have the right to reconstruct a sign that was removed for some reason. Okay, so that's the bulk of the text amendments that we're talking about here. I'll just quickly run through the other ones. 158, 113 are general regulations. This is an amendment that arose during the Planning Commission's discussion of this topic. They were concerned about the question of visibility and obstruction of visibility when a billboard exists that might block traffic, your view of oncoming traffic, that sort of thing. So they are proposing an amendment to our code that would allow for the zoning administrator to require that a sign be relocated, removed, or modified if it's found to obstruct traffic visibility. And the rest of that section there describes how that would occur and when they would need to remove it or relocate it or modify it. And then we have a couple of things related to, back on the use off the premises sign section, 158, 115. These are really just sort of some cleanup language. So the first section there, we're changing some references based on our how we currently refer to things. So currently the language refers to our business districts. They're now referred to as commercial districts, so that's making that change. And also referring to the fact that we conduct an informal hearing rather than a conference, and specifying how that decision-making process occurs. And then replacing the outdated language. And this occurs in two separate sections, so it's basically just a reiteration of some of those adjustments. Okay, so that's it for my overview of the proposal and the text amendment language. I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Burke, to conduct the public hearing.
Does the board have any questions?
I do have a lot of questions. Anybody else?
Procedurally, I think we should, my suggestion would be, if we have any brief questions, we really do want to hear from the public on this, so.
No, I just wanted to ask you a few questions. And this gets back to planning. So you said somebody, a citizen requested that we be able to combine the billboards. So who was the citizen?
So the request was initially made by Kelly Schaefer Miller on behalf of Clear Channel Communications.
Okay. So is an attorney that represents someone, gets paid to represent somebody that okay.
Yes.
I just know a lot of staff time went into this. And I was just sitting here thinking, I wonder if anybody came up with an idea if we would spend this much time, our staff, proposing something. So I look back, and you mentioned a bunch of dates and times about things were silent, and this is important to me. Many times you said here, the master plan was silent, or this was silent, and I see that. And you weren't here, but I know for a long time, the Finksburg Planning Council, this was their big issue in the late 90s. Long time. It went into their master plan. They spent a ton of time on it, and the whole goal was to eventually get these signs to be obsolete, go away, because nobody really wants them. I mean, maybe some people want them, but I would say 99% of the people would say, we don't really want these signs. So the whole purpose was to get rid of the signs eventually, but the agreement was made that we'd make them non-conforming, and eventually they become obsolete, just like we all become obsolete. So I never saw a change in that. I never saw a change in anybody asking, but then it says in 2000, that was in, I forget what that plan was, I got it here. In the plan, and it said, well, this is not that plan, this is the subsequent plan. But it goes all through and says silent, silent, silent. Well, once something is already taken care of, I guess you don't think you have to keep repeating it. It was done, it's in the law, these are gonna become obsolete. So the fact that it's silent, and that's one of my concerns on these master plans, we never go from the original one that we had, we just start over new. Well, that doesn't mean the original one we had that people, it doesn't say, oh, we want to bring them back. So when you say they're silent on it, it's because it was already taken care of. And you shouldn't have to come back and say, oh, unless you go back and say, yes, we want to bring billboards back. We want to not make them non-conforming anymore. It always was their goal in Finksburg. I don't think they've changed, and I think the whole county, to get rid of the billboards, eventually. And 20-some years later, that was 2002 or 2003, is that correct? When we're going to make them all non-conforming, and we're not going to allow them anymore, except 10-foot high. Is that correct? So I'm just making sure I'm getting the time frame, so that's.
2003.
And I remember this because I was there and part of all those things, and we all applauded that, and it was pretty unanimous back then, and it was going to take a long time to phase them out. So I do notice, and it's been brought up to us, but if you look at the corridor plan, I mean, all the way through, even here, it talks about the Main Street coming in. And I think it's sort of everywhere, but it didn't really go away, but it was taken care of earlier. And the first thing I would do is say, okay, does this comply with the master plan? And has it been discussed? Is it something we want to bring back?
Commissioner Krebs?
I'm trying to get the process down because it's important.
All right, I'm not trying to interrupt or trying to be rude here, but we do want to hear from the public.
I do, but
And
I
for
want to
this-
I want to set the stage first, if you don't mind, because some of these things, I'm
Right.
trying to figure out how our staff gets sort of on something that should have been like, wait a minute, this doesn't follow the plan.
It's,
So the proposal was brought to one commissioner. The commissioner brought it to,
They didn't say that, they didn't say that.
yeah, well, they didn't, the proposal was brought to a commissioner. The commissioner brought it to his colleagues. The colleagues wanted to hear about it, so it came to open session, and the commissioners gave direction to the staff to move forward with possibly, with a proposed text amendment.
Oh, okay.
So that's how we are here today.
Okay.
So all of this was done in open session with the commissioner's direction. The board, the staff did not just go and do this. They don't, yeah. This would
Okay.
be way too much work.
Okay,
for
so,
it.
all right, so I guess what I'm getting back to is the master plan. And then it got, but put to the Planning and Zoning Commission, I did watch that meeting, and it was sort of enthusiastically presented as this nice thing. The one thing I did not know, and I want to bring into this conversation, is how the lighting came about, because that makes something not become obsolete. That makes it come forever. Forget the consolidation. I'm even talking about now with the lighting. That to me, the intention of the master plan, of this plan, all the way back, was to get rid of billboards, to have them obsolete. And now they're not obsolete anymore. They're being lit up. All of the ones that can currently come. So I want to get more information about the illumination part of it, because now even what's there can be illuminated, which means they're not going away. They're not becoming obsolete. That was the goal. So I just want to put that out there. I don't know that, and I know you're working through the master plan process again for the Carroll County plan. I'm not sure when Finksburg's coming back up. I know that we decided we're going to keep a Finksburg plan. I know it was somehow, somebody communicated that they weren't going to have a Finksburg or Freedom plan, and that was never voted on. We are having a Finksburg and Freedom plan at some point. So it's not like that has changed, and all the way through this document. So I just want to make sure that we figure out how did we get to this point when it's not aligned, and why did we not go back and just even conceptually say, did anybody change their mind on this? Because this document is binding. We're supposed to be following it. So to me, it shouldn't even be in front of us. But that's me saying that, and we've got to figure out, I don't want to be, every time people shouldn't have to keep coming back and saying, no, we've all changed our mind. We've changed our mind over what the plan says. Because it takes a lot of time to, I mean, people don't know this stuff's going on. I mean, it's called an off-premise sign. Nobody knows what that is. I mean, the first stuff that was written in the newspaper, you can't even read it. It's in the back of the newspaper. It's in 6 font. Nobody knows what an off-premise sign is, that we're having a hearing on it. We finally sent this stuff out, which I appreciate, and I'm going to ask my colleagues at the end of this meeting to make an ordinance to say we're going to have a communication policy that we have to give this information out. We're starting to do it, and I thank you. And you put more detail on, every time you sent that out, I'd say put more detail on, link the plan, so people can be informed. But when you put something in the back of a paper in 6 font and say we've done our job, that's state law, it's minimal. And people don't know. I don't know what an off-premise sign is either. It's a billboard. So I appreciate that and all that you've done, but I want to just go back to how did we even get here when it was clear in the law what the intentions were, and there was no real discussion of changing that. And I know this is about that, but it really shouldn't even gotten this far. We spent a lot of time on something that I don't think it should have gotten this far. And I did not know that it was brought to us, because the commissioner brought it to us, and that's fine. So just from there, the basis of what we're talking about is not whether we want it or not, is whether we went through this big process years ago, 20 years ago, to make these obsolete. I don't think anyone changed their mind on that. And even since then, the Hampstead bypass has come along. And what's in there, what's in the law about the Hampstead bypass?
You mean related to billboards?
Off-premise signs.
Yeah, there are regulations about billboards that can be located along.
Says there can be none. It says there can be none. And why is that?
I don't have the history on
Well,
that.
the history is the mayor requested it because they didn't want to clutter up the beautiful farmland. And that's what we were trying to do, to beautify Carroll County and make us sort of, I'm not going to say look like somebody else, but we're trying to improve our image in Carroll County. That was the whole purpose of beautifying our gateways. That's why we have the Carroll County signs that were put up years ago at the different entrances. So just keep that in mind when we're making these decisions. And it's always in the eyes of the beholder. But while we're discussing this consolidation, I also want to discuss how we got illuminated billboards, which now make them go on forever, because they're going to go on forever. And the ones that are currently there now can all be illuminated because of the law that passed, that to me was in direct violation or difference than the master plans that were passed. That's my opinion, and it was not really out there that I know of.
So I can give you a little bit of history on that. Might be something we can discuss a little bit in more detail.
Is this
Offline,
public
but
hearing
it's-
about the history of
it's-
what we did? We authorized them to do this at a public meeting.
I know.
So can we do public comment and move on with the
Certainly,
public hearing?
but I'm trying to, since we had that meeting, is when I started really paying attention and thinking, how these things get lit? And then I went back and read the
That would
ordinance.
have been a good thing to bring up that meeting.
I did
Can
not-
we move forward? I mean, it's
I'm-
freaking 10:30.
If you don't have time to be.
I have a legitimate question, and 90% of this issue is in my area, so maybe I ought to get to talk just a minute.
I was going to say, I'm going to move us along here. Commissioner, if you want to say
Yes, I have a
something.
legitimate question.
Excuse me, he just said that my question was not legitimate, and we're going to stop with this stuff. My question is very legitimate to me.
It's not on the subject of what we're doing here today.
I think you meant.
It would have been a
Did not
good
mean that.
question when we authorized them to do it.
If I may.
And I'm sorry, that's my opinion, is it's not on the subject. And if you don't like that, I don't, maybe you won't sleep tonight, I don't know, but
All right,
I don't
okay,
care.
all right,
That's my
before-
I'd like to ask a question, and
Yes.
I wanted to ask it 15 minutes ago.
I understand, Commissioner. We will have time after the public hearing to talk about the merits of the issue, the substance of the issue. As Commissioner Kyler said, the primary focus of today is to hear from our citizens about what they think about the proposed changes that are being offered. So
Carl, here's a question.
Therefore, it's a public hearing. I have a question for the guys that are going to public comment. We did a meeting about this in Hampstead and got a lot of input there. We did a meeting in Finksburg and got a lot of input there. We've gotten a lot of emails, and my opinion of the various meetings, Hampstead complained about some business signs, had some height issues, and did whatever. Finksburg seemed predominantly, we don't want this. I initially thought, when this was brought forward by a citizen, realtors, business people, even attorneys can be a citizen also, and brought that forward, that maybe it would be, please people, that there would be less of these. Now, I also think we could restrict size, height, whatever. If we restrict height too much, then nobody's going to do it. So we need to talk about that. I would like for the public commenters, and you're supposed to say your name and address, but emphasize what area of the county are you? Are you from Finksburg? Are you from Hampstead? Because again, if you look at the map, that's where 90% of these are. And I really, I value the input of the people that are in that area. So if you can make sure we know your address. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Commissioner Kyler. With that, I'm going to open the floor to comments from our citizens. Roberta?
The first commenter, and if you go to the microphone there in the middle of the room, is David O'Callahan.
Greetings. Well, thank you for taking your time and listening to us today. This issue does go back a long time. 30 years ago, we started the Finksburg area, and the two things that were our tenements were billboards and having local control and planning, along with the library and water problems. But, and we are opposed to billboards. It's been there, it's been in all the working sessions we've had with creating these master plans, hundreds of us getting together, coming to meeting after meeting, month after month, doing these plans. And what we'd like to do, just to jump forward in the interest of time, instead of looking how to take the billboards we have, reducing them, and then putting in new billboards which just overpower the architecture, the scenery, and everything else, but come up with a way to eliminate them. If as much energy was spent that they did on consolidating, we might have come up with a plan to eliminate them. And I know we can't just go in there and buy them out and do eminent domain. That is pretty unpractical. But I don't know why we can't put in a plan to say, all non-conforming signs have to be gone in 25 years or 20 years. If we would have done that in the beginning of then, this would no longer be an issue. And then use tax incentives and tax penalties to help move it along. I think if we took away and changed the problem, at least in the Finksburg area, to how do we get rid of the signs, instead of how do we make them bigger, overpowering, and everything else. And I just real quickly, if I have the time, just want to go over a couple of things that are in the design guidelines for signs. And I'm just going to go jump a few things. Objectives. Achieve design consistency with the harmony and architectural of the scale of the buildings which relates. And that's mainly for on-premise signs. And then under 4.9, it says discourage signs. Letter K. Billboards, off-premise signs, discourage signs of any type or form. So I think we should stick with our plans, stick with our guidelines, and figure out how to eliminate these billboards. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there a 3-minute clock on that?
No, there's
I'm-
not.
I'm keeping time on my, I'll keep time
Okay,
on my
great.
phone.
I can do it if you want to. The next commenter is Laura O'Callahan.
I'm sorry.
Laura O'Callahan.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank
Morning.
you for letting me speak. My name is Laura O'Callahan, and for both of us, we're at 2704 Appleseed Road in Finksburg, where we have been for decades. In the 1990s, when my children were infants, we attended many, many meetings. They are now in their 30s. When county officials and the citizens of Carroll County talked about long-term plans for Finksburg, the goal was to make Finksburg an appealing gateway to the county. Billboards were a big part of that discussion, how we improve the look of Finksburg and the county as a whole. The goal was to reduce the number of billboards over time. This bill would reduce the number of billboards, but replace them with massive billboards that would dominate the skyline. It would be a step backward, not forward. These billboards benefit only a few at the expense of the community. One person requested this change, or one company, but it will impact all of the Finksburg residents and all of the tens of thousands, I think it's over 80, 90,000 of people who commute through Finksburg every day. Rather than making Carroll County an appealing place to call home and a place of pride, it will be a place of eyesores and only benefit those that own them. These billboards will diminish Carroll County as a place for tourism, something that we all want, and a place of beautiful vistas of countryside that attracts visitors from throughout the state and beyond. If this bill is adopted, one must ask the question, why? Who benefits at the expense of the residents of Carroll County? Thank you so much for letting me speak.
Thank you very much.
Next is Michael Davis.
Hi, good morning. I'm Mike Davis from Finksburg.
Morning.
Morning. Wanted to start, give history and context to the issue. I'd like to start by sharing a conversation I had with a friend recently. And I was talking about this issue in Finksburg, and he said he remembered driving from Baltimore County to Carroll County up Route 140 around 1957. He remembers his father referring to Finksburg back then as Billboard Hill. And it wasn't a compliment. So the problem's been around for a long, long time. It creates a bad impression as you enter Carroll County on one of its main gateways, and other nearby counties have long ago stop the proliferation of billboards. Approximately 20 years ago, as we've discussed, we finally got a grip on the issue with much community support. New off-premise signs were limited to 32 square feet. And there was discussion at the time about billboards as being a blight on our community. It was determined not feasible to get rid of the billboards due to possible legal challenges, and buying out of existing signs and billboards would be cost prohibitive. So existing signs were allowed to remain and be maintained. The problem was resolved as best we could do it back then. And it's unclear to me, I thought it was around 2021 or 2022, Daphne had said 2013. The regulations were changed to allow conversion to electronic LED signs with rotating ads. And this has led to numerous billboards being converted into brighter, more animated electronic LED billboards. The proposal now is to consolidate the smaller signs to allow new signs up to 672 square feet, 50 feet high, and lighted, LED with the rotating ads. These would be the biggest signs ever in Carroll County. The change is also being presented as being requested by a citizen. However, to the best of my knowledge, it's being proposed by one billboard company and their attorney. And the attorney was also given an unfair advantage to sit at the table and present this change both to the Planning Commission and the county commissioners, with county staff given an unlimited time to comment and implying endorsement by county staff. This is being presented as being a benefit to the community in compliance with county planning documents. I certainly understand the benefit to companies and respect their right to seek additional profit. However, the proposal is to the detriment of the community. The smaller signs proposed to be consolidated are not obtrusive and affect the landscape of the community and safety of drivers in a minor way. During the creation of the Finksburg plan, the hope was that these signs would eventually become obsolete and be removed. Any new large billboards add unsightly clutter to our roadways, further degrade the impression people get of our county when entering our gateways, and reduce safety by adding distraction to drivers. There's no benefit to the community that you are elected to represent. Looks like I'm about to run out of time, although I wasn't quite done.
If you have a couple sentences left, please feel free to go ahead and finish them.
I'm sorry?
If you have a couple sentences left, feel free to wrap them up.
Yes, I've made references, as we had said, that in my opinion, if you look at the Finksburg plan in its entirety, it doesn't support any new billboards. And then when it did go through the Planning and Zoning Commission, the comments were things like, quote, driving to Carroll County, walking to Carroll County, what do you see? A zillion signs on 140, so any kind of change can't be bad. It can't make it much worse. I disagree with that. It always can be worse. That's kind of a bad way to look at planning. So I ask the commissioners to stop this change now. It violates our community plans. The intention of their plan is to stop any new billboards and phase out existing ones. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next is Kim Zentz.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Kim Zentz. I reside at 1700 Hanover Pike in Hampstead. I'm here today because, in my mind, this conversation is about more than just billboards. It's about whether the voices of Carroll County residents actually matter. During the development of the Finksburg Corridor Master Plan, there were multiple work sessions and public hearings, and residents showed up. They spoke clearly. They spoke consistently. They said they valued the character of Finksburg and repeatedly expressed concern that increased lighting and billboards would take away from that character, not enhance it. We often hear that no one participates, or we don't hear from the public, but that's simply not true. And let's be honest, this system isn't designed for regular public participation. It intentionally makes it hard for working families to stay engaged, and that is exactly why we must honor the master plans. The problem is, too often that input is ignored, especially when it's inconvenient. I would like to respectfully ask this board to take two actions today. First is to deny the current proposed amendment to Chapter 158 regarding the consolidation of off-premise signs. And second, to please take a closer look at how the county code was updated in 2021 and now maybe 2013, but just, I just looked, that's not listed in the code book anywhere, but to allow for electronic billboards in the first place. According to Chapter 158, which allowed ordinance number 2022-03, which is listed as being allowed for the conversion of existing billboards to the electronic messaging, was passed on December 16th, 2021. However, when reviewing the materials from that date, the agenda includes only item 14, titled Comprehensive Rezoning Residential Text and Map Amendments Adoption, with no reference to billboards. The voting sheet and briefing materials from that meeting do not include any clearly identified motion or discussion related to billboard changes. The same is true when reviewing the video and presentation from December 16, 2021. There's no mention of billboards. Additionally, the November 18, 2021 public hearings, which are cited as part of this process, include no reference to billboards on the agenda or the presentation materials. In my opinion, this raises serious concerns about whether this change was presented to the public with the level of clarity and transparency that residents expect and deserve. I believe this board has an opportunity to do the right thing, to review the process, ensure it was conducted properly, and if necessary, reverse the decision that allowed for electronic billboards in the first place. At the end of the day, this isn't about signs. It's about trust. And right now, some residents in District 2 are wondering if their voices matter at all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and one more comment or card, so if there's anyone else, bring me a card. Kelly Miller.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kelly
Morning.
Miller,
Morning.
73 East Main Street, Westminster, Maryland, 21157. I'm here this morning on behalf of Clear Channel Outdoor, who is the one who proposed this text amendment through the introduction process that Ms. Wyndham outlined. So we appreciate the opportunity to be here today. I did submit written comments because I'm going to talk as quickly as I can, but I have a lot to say in 3 minutes. So I appreciate your consideration of those written comments as well. As you are aware, in the code right now, without any proposed amendment, owners of billboards have the opportunity to maintain, repair, and digitalize those boards in certain zoning districts. They also have the opportunity, and this is anyone in the county, has the opportunity to construct a new billboard at 32 square feet, so very limited compared to what you see in the existing boards. We've heard some of the comments in terms of the goal being to make these boards obsolete. And I appreciate Mr. Davis's comment because I think that does speak a lot to it, which is these billboards at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, are personal property and they do have a value and people do own them. And so the county has respected that personal property right by allowing for that opportunity to maintain and repair those boards, just as any other non-conforming use in the county is provided for in the code as well. So this is not something that is unique to billboards. That is a feature of being a non-conforming use. And what we have seen is that, in fact, these owners of boards are not willing to just let them go into disrepair and remove them. They are important business assets and personal property, and they are maintaining them. So I think it is an unrealistic expectation, unless the county does want to take some drastic action, to expect that these boards are just going to be removed overnight or in any sort of given time period. The text amendment before you today does allow for limited eligibility for those who want to apply for this allowance. It does not create an obligation for owners of boards to apply for this, but it does create an opportunity for them. That opportunity would not result in increased square footage from what exists on the property today. And in no cases would a panel exceed 672 square feet. So I do want to emphasize that it is the lesser of the two that could be constructed on the property. It is possible and likely that there are properties that exceed that 672 square feet of existing signage today that would be limited. So I know I'm watching my clock here. The height proposed is important. It's important because raising a structure up reduces the visual impact of it, and it also limits accessibility. So these boards, as they stand today, some of them are subject to vandalism, which I would assert to you is not in the aesthetic interests of the county. So raising them up prohibits that. The goal here is to allow for utilization of this text amendment, so it is proposed in a reasonable way that people could utilize it. And we would ask you to take that into consideration. And my very last statement here to you is that billboards are used by local businesses. I have used them for nonprofit organizations that I work with to advertise community events. So I understand that there might be sentiments that they are not aesthetically pleasing and that there are goals to make them obsolete. But let's not forget that there are true needs and uses for these that do better the economy of our county. So thank you very much for the time today, and thank you for the opportunity to be involved in this process.
Thank you very much. I'm also going to ask if we have anybody on the line for public comment as well.
Yes, sir. Caller, could you please unmute by pressing star 6, and you'll have 3 minutes for comment. Caller, you're unmuted. Please go ahead and make your comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had to also unmute. Yes, Catherine Adelaide, just as a citizen here, checking in for a minute.
Please.
Yes, I'm calling for the public hearing, and then I will also be making a general comment as a Central Committee member. Is that okay?
Well, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
What part of the county are you calling from?
Oh, Westminster area.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to make a general comment about the whole process. I'm very much about the process, and I do agree with Delegate Krebs that there just needs to be, you do this all the time, so it's so familiar to you. And even I do it more than the average citizen, listening every week and commenting, and I still miss things. So I'm always encouraging you to keep the public record open a little bit longer for stragglers, and to keep trying to make the process transparent and available to everybody. And I see you all doing that. I just want to commend you on that, and please continue, because so many people, they do come in later and then they find out all the opportunities they missed because it just didn't get to them. So everything you can do, especially keep the record open for a little bit longer for people to put their public comments in. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is anybody else on the line?
No, sir, that's it.
All right, thank you very much. Roberta, just double check again. Nobody else here? No other cards? Okay. All right, so I will open up to my colleagues here for any discussion or direction or motions.
I have a quick question, if I might. So, and I might have missed this, I know I was looking back through the paperwork here. What's the current number of signs in the Finksburg corridor that would fall under this?
I don't have the number of signs in the Finksburg corridor. This map shows you a kind of the general dispersion of.
Yeah, I saw that. I was just curious, I don't mean to interrupt, but I was just trying to figure out, are we looking at, I don't know, 80 signs and we're going to go to 40? I mean, I don't expect you to be able to answer that, obviously, with the numbers in front of you right now. If you could get that to us, I'd at least like to be able to look at that.
Yeah, I have the total number of signs, which is 121, but I don't know how many of what the actual number in different parts of the county is. We'll get you that number.
Appreciate it.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground here this morning. I'm going to move the Board of County Commissioners conclude the public hearing and keep the record open for 10 calendar days.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion?
Yes, and again, that's our decision today, to leave the public record open. I just want to encourage everybody to do more public comment. And again, I think, some of the comments mentioned that, this will reduce the number, but it sounds like that doesn't please most of the citizens. And then my other concern, and we talked that at both meetings, height and size. And my opinion, if we took height from 50 to 40, I'm not sure that would please the citizens. If we took it below 40, I'm not sure anybody would build any billboards, so we wouldn't consolidate anything. So I'd really like to hear from people if you feel strongly about the signs, and this won't change the number that are digital or electrical, right? Or it could. It could
Well,
increase
in the
them?
process of consolidating, they might decide that it's an option they want to explore. So that could potentially
Okay,
be.
because it seems like there's thoughts about the digital ones too. So I think we're gonna pass this, so please comment more if you have any issues. What was said today, or what was said at Hampstead, or what was said at Finksburg. I really appreciate more public comment.
All right.
One thing I'd like to ask for while we're asking for stuff, I have a concern I've been bringing up for a long time about public participation and notice. And we've done better. And I've got to, just bringing these up. Here's a sign that gets posted. It was posted last week. It was posted somewhere, last week. Somebody called me and said, what's this sign? It says, public meeting, technical review committee, scheduled for this property. Call this number or visit this website. We want to hear from you. Doesn't tell you when it is, what it's about, nothing. So people driving by say, there's this meeting, there's this big sign posted, public meeting. What's it about? I said, I don't know, it's at Freedom Park. So I said, call the number, it's about a pavilion. The average person doesn't know, gosh, I better call up and find out maybe it's for the next door. I'll pass it around. And I drove by it the other day, it was actually bent and falling down. And all of us no, I shouldn't say all of us, I've never put up a sign. All those guys that put up the signs, like you are doing right now for your election, you know that when you put up a sign with a little thing sticking in the ground like this, it falls over like in the first wind. So most of these signs that we've seen, we've got to do a better job. We usually have them here so they stay up. This is here, and it was folded in half and laying down the next day. So that's about technical review. I'll pass it down. This is just one this week. It's still up. Then there's another one back from 2022. We weren't here. Virtual meeting. And there's a date, you can't read it. Carroll Highlands Self-Storage. This was laying in the ground, put up the same thing on the dirt when it was done. This was sent to me. And I'm just saying, I'm asking that we need to do a better job of this and upgrade our policy on notification. This is just sign notification. We're doing a much better job of putting this stuff out, and I thank you, and I thank you for, like I said, through Carroll Connect. None of this stuff that was done before was ever put out like that. It was never sent out at all. Even though people were signed up for master plans years ago, they stopped sending stuff out to all those hundreds of people that were involved. Somewhere in the master plan says 1,000 people showed up over time. And they all were getting emails. I was getting all those emails. And then they stopped sending any because they just said, oh, we're going to do this outside of the master plan, all the zoning changes. So nobody knew about any of them. And this is what gets put in the paper, and I will pass it. If you know what that, if you can read it, I can't read it with my glasses on. That's what's required by state law. It says off-premise signs. It's in the sports section, which I've never read the sports. I've never seen it before. So now I read it. It says off-premise signs and bulk requirements. Nobody knows what that is. So doing it in English, what you did, putting the documents so if somebody can go back and look at the plan and look at what it actually says, is we're moving in the right direction. But we got to make sure it's in our policy that we have to do it. It can't just be, oh, it's got to be communicated. I've gone back and looked at a lot of things that were put out during this period of time. And I'm not blaming anybody here because you weren't there, I don't think. I know you all weren't there. A lot of time and effort goes into these plans. And then these deviations from the plans, the public can't keep up with. It's impossible. I know what I'm doing. I've been doing this for years. I've been one of these people that came to all these meetings. There's no way that someone is going to say, oh, we haven't updated our zoning code in 30 years, but let me look in the back and see if I can figure out what this says. And even in the last year, I was watching, like, after I retired, I had time to watch the meetings. Often there would be something that went out, and it would say, in 2 weeks, did anybody show up at the meeting? Did anybody comment on email? No. Well, they must not care. Time after time after time. Well, they don't just stop caring. They went to all the planning meetings because no one reads this. And I want you to pass this down and tell me if you've ever read that. And if you would even know what it said or meant to even care enough, or that you're going to go to Freedom Park and say, I better call this number and say, what are they putting up? It's a pavilion. Okay, that's fine. Is it a storage facility? Oh, it's not fine. We say we post the signs and we say we communicate, but
So the lawyers?
Mr. Collier, you guys can go. This is important to me. These are citizens. If our lawyer is more,
Does anything you're saying have anything to do with the motion?
I think it has a lot to do with it.
Whether or not we keep the public record open for 10 days?
I just want to make sure.
So you're opposed to the motion because
All right, I'm-
some sign that somebody else did what didn't make sense? We need to move on. We've got a big agenda today.
I've now had two commissioners ask to call the question, so I have to call the
Let
question.
me just ask you a question. Is there going to be a comment period after this question to say what we'd like to see before it comes back to us?
Within 10 days, it'll be 2 weeks from now, it'll come up in front of us again, and we can discuss it, send it back, discuss it, pass it, discuss it, shoot it down, whatever we decide to do, but that's 2 weeks from now. So as I said earlier, there will be an opportunity for us to talk about the merit and the substance of this after the public hearing.
All right, I'm just asking to be thinking about these things, because part of it is about the communication and the inability for people to know because I would like you to come back with us freezing the lighting, because all the signs that are currently there.
Commissioner, I'm sorry, I do have to stop you. You're getting into the substance now, and I've had two commissioners call for the question. I'm going to call for the question. We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing, keep the record open for 10 calendar days. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Daphne.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming into comments. We are going to switch our agenda around just a little bit once more, and I apologize because we know some of our presenters are now on a time crunch, so we need to move ahead to grant approval to submit application and acceptance of award for the FY27-29 year, promoting safe and stable families, and then we will get back to our legislative update after that.
That's good.
We appreciate you accommodating us, commissioners, because we have a few folks here from some of the agencies that are supporting this, this grant work.
So good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
We're here before you today, as Commissioner Bigliotti mentioned, for approval to submit our application and acceptance of the award for our FY27 through FY29 Promoting Safe and Stable Families program. With me today, I'm joined by Ed Singer, who is our manager of the Local Management Board. We have Mindy Yard. She is the director of the Safe and Stable program at CCYSB, which is Carroll County Youth Service Bureau. And we also have Jenny Grable, who is our CEO with Human Services Programs of Carroll County, Inc. And she is also the director, and they also have an award through this program and provide a level of service with safe and stable families. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Ed to share a little bit of detail about the programs and talk a little bit through, and then introduce our guests again to share some detail from their programs and the support they provide.
Yeah, Commissioners, I'm glad to have our service providers here with us today, because it's not like we're doing a competitive contract on this. This is something that has generally been awarded to these two organizations over the past years. We had a 3-year contract. It's money that comes to us through the Department of Social Services. The local management board's responsible for the oversight and management of the funding that is passed to us through the Department of Social Services. And I thought it would be good to have the folks who provide the services come and talk a little bit about what they do. And I think these services are key to. I always like to say that I look at my job as trying to help families figure out how to help their children eventually become successful adults. And I think the two programs that we have that are coordinated under this grant are important pieces, especially with our very young population. So I'm going to let Mindy go first and talk about what CCYSB does with the funding, and then let Jenny talk a little bit about the Family Center and what HSP does.
Good morning. As Lean said, my name is Mindy Yard, and I'm the program director at the Carroll County Youth Service Bureau for all of our early childhood programs, so the younger kiddos of Carroll County. Definitely thank you for the opportunity to speak about our program. Many of you have probably heard of it, and I have heard some visits as well. The Parent-Child Interaction Therapy Program, PCIT for short. That's what I'll call it for the rest of my brief introduction here. PCIT is an evidence-based intervention that delivers measurable, lasting improvements for the young kids. We typically get the kiddos who have significant behavior challenges. So the kiddos who have trouble with listening, are highly aggressive, tend to be more defiant than you would expect for kids of the same age. And then also the kids who have challenges kind of across the range of environments, whether home, school settings, daycare settings. The kiddos that PCIT serves are in the age of 2 to 7. We use a very unique live coaching model where the therapist guide the caregivers in real time through an earpiece. We have robust technology and a one-way mirror so that we can guide as the interaction is actually occurring between the caregiver and the child. This allows the parents to practice their skills immediately, see progress quickly, and of course build confidence session by session as they move through PCIT. It does consist of 2 phases of treatment. The first phase is the relationship enhancement phase, and the second phase is the behavioral intervention phase. Families typically complete our program in about 12 to 20 sessions, so it is a short-term treatment modality. Outcomes are very strong in reducing tantrums, aggression, and defiance, not only by reducing it in the kiddos, but also empowering the caregivers to have a set of skills to use when kiddos are defiant. I wanted to read a very quick quote that was recently captured in one of our surveys. "I sincerely appreciate everything you have done to help our family bond and grow. The impact that you and this program has had on us is profound. We have learned many techniques and strategies that we now use every day, and this has brought more structure and calmness to us all. We are so thankful that we have been selected to participate." And this is really what PCIT does. It stabilizes families. It does reduce the need for higher cost services down the line, and it strengthens the systems that support early childhood development. So sitting here today to respectfully ask for your approval to move forward with PCIT in the county and serving the early childhood population and the families that bring them to us.
Commissioners, if it's okay, we're going to let Mindy go because I think she has to get back to some PCIT clients. So if you want to.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
All right,
Good morning, everybody. So this partnership helps support staffing in our Family Center. Our Family Center really works with parents and children together. So parents come in and focus on ESOL, GED, parenting classes, cooking classes, all sorts of self-care tools to be the best parents they can be, while their children are working with our child development specialists, really preparing for school. So we're making sure that they're hitting their milestones, that they're participating in enrichment activities. And then throughout the day, they're programming basically that brings the parents and children together. So it's what we call a 2-gen model, really working with both parents and children together to help create and develop strong, thriving families. We know that in our best selves, parenting is really hard. So this is really to help make sure that families that certainly have experienced significant trauma growing up, experiencing trauma right now, have the right tools in their toolbox to be strong parents, and that our children who might be going through trauma right now have the opportunity to thrive and grow and be prepared to be kindergartners and do well in school. And so this really is a partnership that we have directly with DSS, where they refer families that might be at risk of entering or losing their children or in danger of entering foster care. So really working with the hardest of the hard parents to give them the tools and the strategies to be the best parents they can be and avoid any type of separation down the road.
All right, thank you all very much. Are there any questions or directions from the board?
I move the Board of County Commissioners approve the submission of the FY27 to FY29 Promoting Safe and Stable Families application and accept the award.
Second?
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thanks,
Thank you very
Commissioner.
Thank you,
much.
guys.
Thank
All right, so it looks like we will jump. Okay, yeah, come on. Sure, so we'll jump ahead to item number 5, spending authority for Prime Care Medical Incorporated with the Sheriff's Office.
Sorry.
That's all right, thanks for pointing that out.
She's here and she's from coming across from that.
And thank you, everybody, for bearing with us if we've slightly had to alter our agenda this morning, so.
Thank you for rearranging, Commissioner Sutton.
Thank you. Good morning.
The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Carroll County Sheriff's Office, requests your approval to spend up to but not to exceed $55,510.42 to Prime Care Medical, Inc. for catastrophic billing and related medical expenses incurred through February 2026 for Carroll County Detention Center incarcerated individuals for the current contract year. The funds are approved in the FY26 budget.
So Commissioners, this is just for February expenses that were incurred from this vendor, so we're just looking for your approval.
I move the Board of Commissioners approve the spending authority for catastrophic billing and related medical expenses incurred through February 2026 to Prime Care Medical, Inc. in the amount of $55,510.42.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Is there any discussion?
No discussion. It's in here. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now without objection from the board, actually, let's finish up items 6 and 7, and then we'll go.
Sure.
Does that work? All right. Any objection? Okay.
That's not here.
Nope. Okay.
I mean, are they?
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So then, Pam, if you're ready, we'll go back to what would have been item number 2, our legislative update. You ready for us, Pam?
Sure.
Thank you for your patience with us.
Oh, my pleasure.
Hope you're doing well today.
I am, thanks. Hope you all are as well.
Doing well,
Sorry, I
thank you.
had to go get water in the middle of this and then missed my turn.
No worries, no worries.
Okay, so session has wrapped up, and Commissioner Kyler joined me on Sine Die in Annapolis, where we saw lots of people and made sure that Carroll County was represented, and got to personally thank, Mako and some of our other partners and some of the specific members, including members of our delegation who have helped us during session and in the past and hopefully in the future. So also thank you, Commissioner Kyler, it's been great working with you in Annapolis. I want to thank you for that. One of the things that kind of resonated across dozens of conversations that I was seeing is, the difference between, an election year and what's to come. So I'm going to try to give you a high-level overview and get into some specifics today of what the final outcomes were of many of the bills and issues that were addressed during session. Keep in mind that for the sake of just brevity and the fact that I was actively tracking about 400 bills, and in the end, looking at everything that passed, looking at about 800 or so once we got to the end of session, that I'm going to kind of go through these relatively quickly. So if you have specific questions, let me know. In the next week or so, you will get a very dense report from me. That when I was working on it in draft form, it was over 1,000 pages, so I'm going to try to whittle it down. But the goal of that report is going to give you the history of all the bills that we were tracking, just the formal synopsis, and then what I'm adding into it so that you'll know what to expect. And it's a lot of what I'm going through today is at least a line on every bill that kind of gives you the bottom line. And I'll try to highlight that so that maybe you have to read 1,000 lines, but not 1,000 pages. But if you want more, it's there. The Senate looked at over 1,400 bills, the House over 200 bills, and so far 150 or so are enacted. Over 800 or so at my last glance is what kind of passed both sides of the House and we're getting sent to the governor for consideration. So you'll see signings over the days and weeks ahead from Governor Moore to see what he's actually supporting. We'll start hearing possibly about potential vetoes down the line. It should be interesting. The most exciting part of session was in the last 4 minutes of the House, if you watched it, and I'm sure read in the news. And in the Senate, things get tense always as it leads up to midnight, and that was no different this year. And just for the sake of thank yous, which I think is the most important, I also just want to make sure to thank our delegation, all of their staff, and all the departments. Without everyone communicating and staying in touch with me throughout the session, I wouldn't know which bills were most important to everyone. And certainly wouldn't be able to get the intel. I just want to, before I get into the formal part, also want to say I ran into Senator Reedy as he was being interviewed, going into the floor in the Senate. I ran into Delegate Boyce, who was working on the hunting bill, and I had a couple other people that I ran into and was able to have some conversations off the record that confirmed a lot of what we've talked about throughout session, about our presence in Annapolis, but also just the behind-the-scenes why of some of these things. So if you have any other questions, we can certainly talk, after this or offline, and I can give you more perspective. But I think, in general, those things that were successful, it's taken us a few years to get there, like the unpaid property tax bill, a few things like the district planning bill that didn't go through have promise in future years, and even some of the changes to hunting, for example, it wasn't backlash to the idea of it, it was more about the process. So for hunting, for example, as Delegate Tomlinson told us earlier in session, it was more of a several-year look and a long-term interim approach to how we're going to approach statewide all of these individual jurisdiction changes to hunting. So now there'll be a process through DNR, because that bill passed, that we can look at our individual appeal for Sundays, but there really wasn't individual bills that were being addressed across the board, and even we tried to get it through as an amendment. It just, there wasn't, appetite's not the right word, but there wasn't, that wasn't the approach that everyone wanted to take this year. So what I've known and what I've certainly seen reinforced is that anything that we want to accomplish, we need to make sure that we're leading up into session and doing the groundwork, so that if there's anything you're hearing didn't happen the way you wanted it to, or something else we want to work on, we should prioritize that and make sure that we're working with the delegation early and often, and some of the stakeholders, because there are a lot of trends and things we worked on this session that we were able to stop, that we wanted to stop, but that will also come back. So that's kind of my high level summary. And here are some key takeaways. Cost pressures to counties continued to be a theme, of course, and greater state involvement in local decision-making. And that's something that I see likely to occur more of in the future. A lot of the late session bills created tension, some of which were, for example, the Relief Act took many other unsuccessful bills and wrapped them into one, and then there wasn't a whole lot of opportunity to work on amendments and really do any wiggle room, despite a lot of effort. The voting rights bill is one of those examples, which expanded state-level voting rights down to local levels for counties and municipalities, creating a pathway for legal challenges. And essentially, there's no immediate change in Carroll County, but there may be a need to look at some of the ways that we do things with elections at some point, and open up to Mr. Burke to look at the potential legal exposures, and it's not funded. So we'll see where that takes all the local governments in the future, but that was one of the hottest topics in the final moments. Additionally, the Relief Act for energy went through, and that was one of the big bills that kind of got pushed at the end. The biggest takeaway is $150 average savings for most households in the state, and shifting energy costs to larger entities was kind of the goal of that, and trying to get something across the board. Blueprint was, is always an important issue, but it was less about fundamental changes this session, as we've talked about, and more about the small changes to smooth out implementation, trying to stabilize some of the funding formulas, and looking at how poverty's addressed. And this is something that we will definitely be looking at in much more depth after the election. I talked to Sarah at the Sine Die Mako event, and she's already ramping up, and that's her area of expertise, to look at where that impacts the state. And I certainly let her know to let me know how we can weigh in and help, so that Carroll County's at the table for those discussions, because that's the biggest cost driver also that we're going to be looking at. So while it was kind of a quiet beast this year, I expect that's going to be one of the major things we're going to look at ahead. PFAS was a big issue that came up again, and looking at forever chemicals essentially, and there was a bill that passed some stricter regulations. It will impact how we look at wastewater operations and potentially agriculture, and I see that being an ongoing topic that grows, and that will be something that will likely eventually, if not sooner than later, cost money, because it's one of those things, especially because it's newer, that they're going to probably more directly put on local governments. Housing was another huge issue, as you know, and the state wanted to override local zoning to increase housing supply, and the big issue was the state versus local just control battle here again. We were able to basically kill the bills for Silver and Starter and Middle Housing and some of the others that we worked on, but this won't go away. While right now there are no forced zoning changes and no requirements to allow higher density, and we're still maintaining that local control, there is a study that passed for future zoning changes, and there is less flexibility moving forward once projects are submitted. So, we see the direction things are headed. This was the incremental changes, and it's another one that we're going to want to make sure we're on top of and weighing in on so that things are done in a holistic approach. A lot of what I saw and a lot of the conversations that I had that kind of are the offline ones on these topics are that there are good intentions when you look individually at some of this, but it doesn't really work necessarily in practice, either across the board or in certain local governments. It sort of feels very blueprint-esque to me in the conversations of this big initiative that then we're going to look at and say, well, everyone's really different and this infrastructure works here, or a lack of knowledge that, for example, water from Hartford County is going into Baltimore City. Not everyone knows certain things like this, and it's a lot of complex information. So I think it's really important that our departments and all of you help me understand any of those little nuances that I may not know about, so we can stay on top of that and that we're communicating with all the stakeholders as we look at all of these energy and environment issues that are definitely going to continue, and many of which are centered around housing. So it all kind of comes together, but we want to make sure that we're continuing to look that out. So I think a lot of the big issues that we were scared could cost a lot of money or be just illogical to how we're doing things in Carroll County, I think we dodged most of those bullets this year, but we need to keep our eyes open. On a positive note, as expected, our Carroll County Public Facilities Bond Bill, which authorized $27 million, passed. The workers' compensation bill for heart disease and hypertension, presumption, and permanent partial disability for Carroll County deputies also passed that we were looking and tracking. As you know, the unpaid personal property tax bill passed this year. We saw a bunch of other issues that weren't directly, either our or our delegation issues go through. And I'm going to try to go through a handful of these. I tried to pick out, and while we were sitting there, I got rid of a lot of this. Don't get scared at the stack, because I picked out highlights for you all today. All of it will be in your written report.
So not all 800 today?
No, we're not going to do that today. We could, but I think you'll get hungry. So let me go through a few of these one by one. There was a bill from the Department of Natural Resources related to water resources and identification of vernal pools that passed, that establishes a process for identifying and documenting certain vernal pools. We talked about PFAS a little bit, and there was a sewage sludge bill that creates a statutory framework for regulating the PFAS concentrations in land-applied sewage sludge. Climate change, homeowners insurance, and emergency management study. It's requiring the University System of Maryland to study the relationship between climate change, homeowners insurance, and emergency preparedness. So we saw a lot of studies, a lot of technical changes. You're going to hear a lot of that coming over and over again. The alcohol, beverage, and cannabis issue came up over and over again. There were a lot of looking at how those permits and regulations and licenses are approved, and trying to merge those in a few different cases. The Bring Back Main Street Act did pass, and this establishes a study on potential residential and mixed-use development allowances in commercial zones. Again, another way of kind of trying to look at this housing issue in the future. Let's see. There's a requirement that expands institutional accountability for supporting student parents in higher education, formalizing and regulations for music therapy practice in Maryland, just to give you a little diversification. The legislation that Delegate Boucher put in about county governments and charter requirements failed. The Maryland Worker Freedom Act, which we talked about a few weeks back, that prohibits certain employer actions against employees or applicants related to the attendance at employer-sponsored meetings on religious or political matters, passed. There was some strengthening statewide tracking and oversight on student safety issues related to bullying and reporting. There's some streamlining estate administration processes that upgrades procedures for judicial probate and clarifies inheritance tax applications. We saw something pass that authorizes local governments to regulate invasive tree species. Skipping a few of these here. There were a bunch of different things going on around voter registration and access to voting, one of which was a bill that expands voter access for citizens who are returning after incarceration and automatically restores their voter registration. There was legislation that mandates real estate sellers to provide information on flood risk. There's a continuation that extends the Maryland Horse Industry Board through a sunset extension. The Rural Readiness Program Fund establishes a rural readiness program and fund, just like its title. There's also a requirement that there's bus stop access at early voting centers. Let's see. Okay, no, we already talked about that one. That's a double. The No Kings Act passed. Municipal election reporting requires municipalities that have a website to have dates and election information on their websites. There's now a school book fair tax exemption. There was a bill, HB 395, called the Animal Feeding Water Discharge. This is meant to strengthen, streamline process. I wrote this in highlighter, so it's hard to read. Farmers can now start construction of things like animal housing and feeding and storage areas before they get the discharge permits. So it's meant to kind of streamline that process. County library boards are now required to include a student member. That was a cross file. There's a vulnerable adult banking protections bill aimed at protecting vulnerable adults from getting exploited in banking. The Child Care Opportunities Program. This was meant to address the child care shortage issues, and it's requiring in fiscal years 28 through 30 that the governor include $450,000 in his budget for this program to give funding for in-home child care providers locally. There was also an expansion for cannabis licensing and training so that employees were capped at 10 previously, and now they're capping them at 20. And I'm going on and on and on. There's already funding out there for pediatric cancer grant funds, but now they're trying to add a layer of accountability and tighten who is eligible for it. So now individual physicians, individuals, and labs can no longer get that funding, and it's limited to nonprofits, nonprofit hospitals, and education institutions. The Decade Act passed, which I know, Commissioner Guerin, you were looking at. We talked about hunting and stormwater. That's a duplicate. The 311 system that's enabling that we talked about passed. So I think that's a high-level overview, giving you an idea, and I'll put the other half of these away for later. But they were very busy doing all different things that were administrative, and it left a lot of people nervous about what's to come because there were some really big issues that were left on the table that we've talked about. So, we always see incremental things happening every session, but the tensions were high, and you saw that at the end. So I am interested to see how all of the elections turn out. We had a lot of veteran members that are not returning, a lot of people that have been there a long time, and that always changes things as well. There was the new House committee this year that focused on local government, which was a great addition, I think, overall, and gives us a louder voice. So as all of these changes come, we just have to kind of look at them. The Maryland State Association of Counties is always open to hearing about topics that you all want to hear about and learn more about. And I know that we have a good representation of you commissioners and our department heads. So if there's ever a topic that we want to make sure is addressed or a speaker that we want to hear, please let me know. I'm happy to talk to Michael Sanderson and his team. They're very open to that, and they want to make sure. Or likewise, if there's someone in the county that we think should be a speaker, and make sure they're on a panel. I know we've had great representation in the past, but I want to make sure that we're at all of these tables where there's a large, audience, so that we can be heard throughout the interim and leading up to session. And I just want to thank you all again. I know I sent you a lot of emails and texts saying, I need to hear from you in 36 seconds. And sometimes that makes it really difficult. And I want to especially thank Roberta and Deb and Vivian for all of your support. Things move quickly, and it's a lot. But I think, made a good impact with what was out there this year. And I look forward to finalizing the report and getting it to you so you can read all of the pages, and I'll shorten it as much as I can. But if you have questions, once you look at that or following this, just let me know, and we will wrap up the legislative session topics in the next few days and then look ahead. So thank you again, and let me know if you have any questions.
Well, Pam, thank you as well for all of your professionalism and keeping us informed and keeping us on point about everything. And I know that we are always looking for ways to continue to improve what we do in our working relationship. And I know over the course of the past several months, you've had some suggestions that you brought up in open session about how we can improve our effectiveness and raise the level of our voice in Annapolis. And so I would hope that in the that interim period between now and next year, we all get together as a group to see how we can continue to facilitate our effectiveness. So we're certainly open to suggestions, and we want to utilize you even more. So
thank you.
I have one question for her.
Oh, go ahead.
I think you weren't in the room when I mentioned it prior to Carol, but there was a bill that was brought to our attention last night at the ESAC meeting, the Emergency Services Advisory Council, and it had to do with firefighters' schedules and how they made them all be the same. And it's problematic, and I won't get into why it's problematic, very problematic. The number one most problematic is that it takes away local control from every county on setting firefighters' schedules, which are very different. So if you would track that, and ones like that, I know the Firefighters Association, they said they tracked it some. I think it came out a lot quicker than they thought. It's really a big deal, and sometimes getting that information even to our delegation. I mean, I know Senator Reedy would not have supported that bill if it brought to his attention. And things happen so fast, they do that on purpose.
Yes.
And sometimes even those letters of support don't catch up with them.
Absolutely.
Because, again, whether you like the schedule, don't like the schedule, for the legislature, who are, I guess they're experts in firefighter schedules, to put that in without the counties asking for it to be put in, it takes away their control of how they schedule firefighters. So if you know the bill number?
Yes, so I'm sorry if I may, that would be Senate Bill 445.
I'll look at that one
And it
again.
mandates a shift change to 1 and 3. And without getting into too much detail, it completely pulled the rug out from under our Carroll County Department of Fire and EMS. Completely pulled the rug out from under us. And it will take effect in October of 2028. It was supposed to be October 2026, so maybe there's time to fix some things, but tremendous damage, because now these other municipalities, other counties have to add another shift to their schedule, and there's already not enough firefighters to go around, and we will lose a tremendous amount of talent out of Carroll County for it. So pulling the rug out from under us is exactly what that bill should be called.
And I don't know if during the interim, if there's an opportunity for the counties, maybe MACO should put something like that on their schedule, for one of these conferences, because we do have a year before it gets implemented, but it is a big change. And again, even if it doesn't affect us directly, it's going to affect us very indirectly by all these new firefighters, all these other places, because of the schedule. If the schedule works for them, I just don't know what the impetus was, and it wasn't a cross-file. You said it was only a Senate bill?
I don't remember there being a cross-file. I'll look it up again. I remember this being an early session issue, so I don't know if it was early and it, like you said, moved really fast, so I wasn't hearing much about it later on or what, but I will look back and I'll watch what happened when and get back to you guys and let you know kind of what I can. And I definitely think you're on the right track with looking at what can we do now, since there is a year till it implements. There were a couple other issues, that related also to firefighter, EMS, things like that I think we should look at too while we're looking at it.
And something like that big of a change, usually, I'm not saying always, if it's only a Senate bill and it never had a public hearing in the House side, except a short one, usually they don't pass it unless it's something very easy.
I'll see what I
So
can
it's
learn.
unusual to have it jammed through like that with just one House having it.
That was what I felt happened with a lot of bills this year. Like there were it felt like they were, and this is like not an official thing, but what I felt was happening a lot was there were these goals, this is what's going to happen, and there were different vehicles. Like redistricting failed, but then at the end of the day, some of the same goals were achieved with the, other changes to election law. So I see what you're saying. We'll definitely look at that bill. And if any others come to mind, we can look back and kind of debrief on what happened and how and what we can do now.
I mean, one success that put to rest is 311. I know they wanted to mandate 311 for all the counties. 311 is a great idea. And it's just but it's also something that passed. But it said enabling. At least you said the word enabling, and I like that word. Well, we'll see it.
I don't believe it passed that way.
Well, Pam, follow up on that, because that's a
I
big
will.
difference.
I thought it was enabling.
Very weirdly written.
Okay, well, that's important, because, it's a nice idea for Montgomery, Prince George's. We handle, we've never had a complaint of us not dealing with the things we need in our county. They either contact us. Anyway, enabling means one thing, but having to put a whole other program in place, so that word makes a difference. That bill's been around for a long time.
Right.
Good idea, but again, it's a mandate if you say must. If it's enabling, it's just a framework
Absolutely.
suggesting it.
Yeah, I agree, yeah, correct, I'll look into that.
I hope you're right in that word, but.
I hope I am right. I thought I just read that one, but you know what, I've been reading a lot of bills, I could have missed it.
And to piggyback a little bit on what you said, and I think our budget allows it, we only have an office there during session, and that's fine, and I don't think that needs to change. And she works a lot during session. I feel like starting this spring, not waiting till next fall, I think as long as she can, and you can work it out with her, I think Pam should meet committee chairmen, meet with our delegation some, meet with MACO. She's been very active with MACO staff, and that's really helped us. And they're anti-local control like we are. So I just think, and I don't think we have to change the budget. I think we're okay. I just think it would really help us if she can do that, and I hope you guys agree.
That makes perfect sense to me.
Yes.
Right, I'd like to just talk about how we're going to do it for, just in general, because I think we can be a little bit more effective. And we've got to lay out what that looks like. So I'd like to have a longer conversation about it at some point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Sounds good. All right, anything else for Pam? Pam, thank you so very much, and we
Thank
will
you.
see you very soon. I'm sure of it.
Absolutely, thank you, have a good rest of your day.
You too.
You as well. Up next, we come to the contract award for the installation of fire suppression storage tank at 1738 Old Tawny Town Road.
Morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Division of Building Construction and the Department of Fire and EMS, request your approval to award a contract to install one 30,000-gallon underground water storage tank for fire protection to be located at 1738 Old Tawny Town Road in Westminster, Maryland, in the amount of $320,810. This amount is within the approved budget. The Division of Building Construction and Department of Fire and EMS solicited bids with 2 respondents, and the bid results are below.
Any questions or directions from the board?
I move the Board of Commissioners award the contract to the fire suppression water tank project for 1738 Old Tawny Town Road, Westminster, Maryland, to Stanballs, Inc. in the amount of $320,810.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, okay, go ahead. No.
Well, what is that property?
That's Carroll Lutheran School. Carroll Lutheran School.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a footnote to this, and I know Chief Robinson's here, and he'll agree with me. This is, just for people who are watching, this is not a project of convenience. This is being done because the water does not exist in that area. I just recently completed a partial evaluation of South Carroll's rural water supply, thanks to Winfield Community Volunteer Fire Company for that. And, the rural water supply, the ability to grab from tanks and streams and things like that is a very real one. It's not an issue of convenience. It's an issue of necessity. So, this is great, and I appreciate you moving this forward. This is very important.
I appreciate you bringing that up, Commissioner Guerin.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Up next, approval to purchase one Ford 9x2 BOC lift. I'm imagining BOC does not stand for Board of Commissioners.
Well, it might. Let's find out now. Yeah, we do.
The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Department of Public Works, requests your approval to purchase one Ford 9x2 BOC lift from Sunny Merriman in the amount of $119,714. This purchase will be made from a State of Virginia contract, which Carroll County will utilize. This purchase will be made via FY26 Section 5339 Transportation Capital Assets Bus Replacement Grant, which budget has approved.
Any questions, direction from the board?
I move the Board of Commissioners approve the purchase of one Ford 9x2 BOC lift from Sunny Merriman in the amount of $119,714.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move into the public comments section of our agenda. Roberta, do we have anybody here for general public comment? No, sir. Greg, do we have anybody on the line for public comment? Or Matt, whoever's listening?
Caller, could you please unmute by pressing *6, and you'll have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. Catherine Adelaide, one of 9 members of the Carroll County Republican Central Committee. I'm actually going to start with my last thing because I keep running out of time. I'm going to begin my report with Carroll County Right to Life. At our last meeting in March, I was elected president. And we also had Mike Hurley as our vice president. Peggy Neville is staying on as our treasurer and acting secretary. And I will be presiding at my first meeting as president tonight, April 16th, by Zoom at 7 o'clock. You can visit our website, Carroll County Right to Life, to get more information about that. But I did want to take a few minutes to really give thanks to a couple of people who launched Carroll County Right to Life several years ago. Sally Taylor, who's a candidate now, organized our first meeting and was our first secretary. I worked as an expediter before, and I got our bylaws passed at that meeting and nominated the former president, Stephen Leon, a former homicide detective, who accepted it. And I just wanted to give a big shout out and thanks to Stephen Leon and his wife, Beth, who acted as our secretary when Sally moved on. President Leon has served for the past 2 years. He helped get funded 3 pregnancy centers, including the one in Carroll County, got us up on a website, got that amazing banner that most of you saw at the legislative breakfast, transitioned us into Zoom meetings so that more folks could attend. And so I just wanted to take the opportunity before I take over tonight. He and his wife will be staying on as members, but they needed a little break from leadership. So here I am, and wish me luck and pray for me. I'm very excited about it. Okay, let me get back to Carroll County Republican Central Committee. Our next meeting will be April 23rd, which is next week. Our last meeting was March 26th, and at that meeting, we did make a new appointment for the secretary. I was the acting secretary, and Kelly McIver, who's also running for Central Committee, was appointed by the chair with a unanimous vote from the members. We also had 3 candidates, Tyra Battaglia, Jennifer Whistler, and a campaign manager for David Wallace come to the meeting. And we do encourage candidates, especially new candidates, to come to our meetings and let us help you. That's what we're here to do. So, come to our next meeting. The only pre-primary carnival at this time we're going to have is at Gamber on May 23rd through the 31st. So we'll be promoting, primary candidates. We will have our picnic in August, and our next meeting will be next Thursday, April 23rd. Our big news for Maryland Right to Life is the convention registration is open in Gambrels. Please go to the website. I will be talking a lot more about that that's coming up on May 16th. And my time's up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Do we have anybody else on the line for public comment?
No, sir, that's it.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll move into the administrative session open for the agenda. Does anybody have anything for admin open? All right, hearing none, we'll go into agenda review for the week of Monday, April 20th. Monday, April 20th shows nothing on the formal calendar. Tuesday, April 21st, Work Zone Awareness Week proclamation at 8:30 a.m. at the County Office Building parking lot. 9 o'clock a.m., Planning and Zoning Commission with Commissioner Gordon. 10 o'clock a.m., County Commissioners open session for release of the FY27 proposed budget. And to make note, there is no public comment at that particular session. At 2 o'clock p.m., the Veterans Advisory Meeting with Commissioners Gordon and Kyler. Wednesday, April 22nd, Ted will begin his presentation of the budget at each of the branches of the library, beginning with we have Westminster and Tawnytown branch listed for 7 p.m. at the same time for April 22nd.
Is that right?
Is that?
That's the library.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry, yeah, I didn't see that, okay. All right.
I saw it that way too, you're good.
Oh,
All right,
okay.
so it wasn't just me. Okay. Yeah, I got confused too. Okay.
No, you're good.
So 7 o'clock PM at the Westminster branch of the Public Library, Ted will be presenting on the budget. And then also at 7 PM at the Tawnytown branch, the Public Library Board of Trustees will be meeting. Thursday, April 23rd, 8 o'clock AM, County Commissioners will have closed administrative session, followed by open at 9 o'clock AM, beginning with item number 1, Priority Carroll, and a Carroll County Career and Tech Center Tiny Home Project presentation.
If I might.
Yes, sir.
Wanda, could you check, there should be a proclamation that morning for Take Your Child to Work Day as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Item number 2, budget transfer for cancer screening tests and diagnostics. Item number 3, approval to purchase cancer screening tests. Item number 4, grant approval to submit application and acceptance of award for Emergency Services Personnel Stop the Bleed program. Item number 5, request for referral to Planning Commission for the Maryland Accessory Dwelling Units Requirements and Prohibitions, or HB 1466 text amendment to the county code. Item number 6, request for public hearing for text amendments to chapters 115 and 158 planned commercial centers, followed by public comment, admin open, agenda review. 12 o'clock PM, Chamber Legislative wrap-up for the Carroll County Community College with Commissioners Kyler and Krebs. 2 o'clock PM, Board of Education, Board of County Commissioners joint meeting here at the county office building, here in this room, and there will be no public comment on that. At 7 o'clock PM, budget community presentation at the Eldersburg branch of the library. Friday, April 24th, Baltimore Metropolitan Committee Board of Directors meeting with Commissioner Kyler. Saturday, April 25th shows nothing on the formal calendar. Sunday, April 26th, Commissioner Kyler has the podcast. Are there any corrections or alterations to the first week of the agenda?
I just had a question about this Sunday, which is in this current week. There's supposed to be something up here in Westminster that I'm supposed to go to, and I was the only one listed, and I'm not able to go. But anyone else going? It's the unveiling of something, and I signed up for it, and I don't want to let them down. It's,
Something to do with the 250th, maybe?
let me find it. What's today? It's the 19th. Westminster
16th. Today's the 16th.
Cemetery 250th plaque unveiling. Anybody else going to that?
I'm unable to make that.
Yeah, I have a funeral on Saturday, so now I have to do what I'm doing on Saturday on Sunday. So can you let them know that I regretfully, I'm not able to make that?
That's this Sunday?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So that's why it's not on here.
Yes, yes, but I-
you're changing, gotcha.
Yes, I just don't want to think somebody,
I was thinking it was next Sunday, I was.
no, and if I thought somebody else was going, I wouldn't worry about responding
We
back.
can't
but
be everywhere. We can't be everywhere.
Can't be, no, but I want to
We try very hard.
Let them know not to look for anyone. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, so hearing nothing else, we'll move on to the second week, for the week of Monday, April 27th, 6 o'clock PM, Bridging Life's Taste of Carroll Stratosphere Social in Eldersburg with Commissioners Gordon and Kyler. Tuesday, April 28th, Veterans Appreciation Dinner, Freedom District Lions Club with Commissioner Kyler. 7 o'clock PM, Budget Community Presentation at the Tawnytown branch of the Carroll County Public Library. Wednesday, April 29th, the Kiwanis Club of Mount Airy 77th Anniversary Celebration with Commissioner Guerin. 7 o'clock PM, the Carroll County Public Library, Budget Community Presentation at Carroll County Public Library, the North Carroll branch in Hempstead. Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Guerin. Thursday, April 30th, 8 o'clock AM, closed admin for the Board of County Commissioners, followed immediately at 9 o'clock AM by our open session. Item number 1, Priority Carroll. And I should mention that we will be back upstairs for this one.
Mr. Vigliotti, that first line's not big enough, I almost couldn't read it.
Yeah, no, that's-
Should put some Mickey ears there. No, and if you,
So go ahead.
I did not pick this week. If you look at the things on the schedule, our own Lions Club Veterans Appreciation is a phenomenal event. Taste of Carroll is one of the best things we've ever done. I've never missed it before.
Commissioner Krebs, don't worry, we all try to cover each other and.
No, it's like these are things I want to do, but
Understood,
certain things are priorities.
We can't be everywhere, you're correct, right? So item number 2, briefing, updates on the US 250th celebrations and presentation of commemorative coins with the Department of Planning and Land Management. I'm sure more items will be added to this before then, but then we'll follow that with public comment, admin open, agenda review. At 4:30 PM, the Union Bridge Community Resource Fair in Union Bridge, I will be attending that. 7 o'clock p.m., budget community presentation at the Mount Airy branch of the County Public Library. Friday, May 1st, 2026 Maryland Preservation Awards at Union Mills Homestead. Saturday, May 2nd, Christmas Tree Park ribbon cutting and dedication with Commissioner Kyler. Are you going to dress up as Santa Claus for the event?
Probably.
Sunday, May 3rd, Commissioner's Podcast. Commissioner Gordon has the podcast, and that is the 5th Annual Veterans Celebration for Carroll County at the Carroll County Farm Museum. I would imagine all 5 of us will be attending that. I will certainly encourage everybody to attend that as well, and we'll have more information on that as we get closer to that. Are there any changes or amendments to the second week of the agenda?
A question, so May 3rd, maybe all of us can't, but I will be.
Okay.
May 2nd, have you heard about Junior Fisher's 100th birthday?
I have not.
Okay, remind me
Okay.
afterwards, we can talk about that.
Okay.
We're doing a proclamation, I'm going, and I didn't know, it's at the Westminster Legion.
Okay.
And Junior is infamous in Westminster.
A little
so-
bit, yeah. Maybe I should probably attend that, assuming all things.
So, yeah, I wanted to
I
make sure you
appreciate
knew
that.
about it, and,
Yes.
yeah, that this reminded me.
I do have one thing just for clarification purposes. I know next week, are we going to be back upstairs? Is that?
Yes, we should have been upstairs.
Just wanted to make sure we mention that in the meeting for anybody that might be watching. We'll be back.
And,
Thank you for that,
I
Commissioner.
don't want to dig, but I could smell paint today.
Well, probably just as well. We tried to open the windows to ensure
I
that it
know.
wouldn't be a problem, but probably just as well. That would give us another week to air it out.
Well, all right. Hearing nothing more, we need a motion to go into closed for legal and then to adjourn thereafter.
So moved.
Commissioner, it's going to be closed legal potential litigation matter, so it's two issues.
Allow me to rephrase. We need a motion to go, we need a motion to go into closed for legal and potential litigation matter and then adjourn thereafter.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are we
All
staying?
those-
Okay.
Where are
all
we
those
doing
oppo-
that?
uh,
Upstairs.
All those opposed?